Chapter 1765. The host finally jumped onto the stage with a crooked mouth and squinted eyes. The result of this battle is that Mr. Jin Yotsai's big cat tiger has won. The big cat tiger is indeed mighty and majestic. It is invincible and has never lost a battle. Once again, it continues to write the legend of invincibility. Cough, 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 cough. At the end of his speech, the host coughed violently. This was really, he didn't expect this outcome at all. It was really too unexpected. To be able to say something like this was the limit of a professional's ability. He wanted to find something more professional, but he did not have the strength to do so. However, the result of the battle has indeed been decided. Everyone was in a 100% petrified state as they watched Jin Yukai bring the big cat tiger down from the arena with his precious baby. Each and every one of their gazes were like puppets with strings pulled, filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred. An Earth-grade spirit beast could actually be so careless? And it was such a fatal carelessness. Apart from the snake's carelessness, the big cat tiger's luck was also too good. It was simply too good. For the sake of me? For the sake of me, why can't such a good thing happen to me? People don't even care if they win. It's just a small sum of money. If I win this round, I don't need to do anything in this lifetime. No, at least for 3, 5, or 7 lifetimes. Chuyang took 100 purple cloud coins from the grief-stricken 5th Elder Jin. Then he walked over to 3rd Master Jin proudly. 3rd Master Jin, haha, thank you for being the banker this time. That my prize. 3rd Master Jin's old face turned into a dried cigar. Cough, cough, this, 2,500 purple cloud coins, haha, as the saying goes, if you agree to bet you have to accept your loss. Since I'm the banker, I won't deny my loss. But as your senior, I need to remind you that this sum of money is not small. Can you take it all by yourself? This world is not very peaceful. Chuyang raised his right hand. It's a small matter. Look, do you see this? This thing is called a space ring. Not to mention a mere 2,500 purple cloud coins, even if it was 5 million purple cloud coins, he would still have more than enough money to spare. Thank you for your concern. As expected of senior gambler, your magnanimity is outstanding. Everyone instantly looked at the ring on Chuyang's hand, and they all fell silent. It was an ordinary, unadorned, unremarkable ring with almost no decorations on it. It was actually the legendary spatial ring. Furthermore, the amount of energy stored was astonishing. What is the origin of this Jin Yukai? Dong Xuebing's background is getting more and more mysterious. In fact, what was revealed now was only the tip of the iceberg, a mere grain of sand. Among the people present, there were only a few people who had a storage space. Their storage space was incomparable to Lord Jin's, but all of them treated it like a treasure. He did not dare to show it in front of others. Rashly appearing in front of others would only bring unnecessary trouble to ZJ. Not everyone was like great official Zhen, who didn't treat the purple cloud coin as a big deal, and didn't treat spatial equipment as a secret. He doesn't even mind revealing more secrets to others. He could even store 5 million purple cloud coins, and there would be more than enough to spare. This was no different from telling others that he had a lot of other things in his space. As for the specifics, they could just imagine. Anyway, I don't treat 2,500 purple cloud coins as a big deal. It's just a small amount. Was he implying that the value of other things in his space ring was even higher than 2,500 purple cloud coins? That was like carrying a huge treasure trove with him everywhere he went. In addition, there was also his ability to come and go without a trace. Everyone could only look up to him in the dust. Jin Yukai was so famous in the beast fighting coliseum. Why didn't the big clans send people to investigate and find out about his background? But no matter how they investigated, this person was actually so mysterious that there were no clues at all. Up until now, they couldn't even find out where he was staying. It wasn't just one clan that was like this. All the clans and forces had investigated and found valuable clues. At this moment, everyone couldn't help but have the same doubts in their minds. What kind of background did this person have? How can a person like him be so stupid? Using a wild beast to participate in the game? And it was a sky-high amount of wealth. Instantly, many people started to have doubts about Jin Yotsai's spirit beast, Tiger Cat. Today's competition was too strange. It was too bizarre. It seemed too ridiculous. While Jin Yukai was collecting his debts, many people took the opportunity to observe the Tiger Cat. But no matter how they looked at it, it was just a harmless, ordinary wild beast. Even if there was not the slightest bit of elemental energy fluctuation as they walked and breathed, they did not cause any elemental energy fluctuations in the air. It was so ordinary that it couldn't be any more ordinary, Could it be that he was really lucky? Unbelievable. As a result, many people once again had lively thoughts. Their eyes darted around as they thought, my family's spirit beast is much stronger than this big cat tiger. The Jin clan's golden single-horned dragon python can be careless, but my spirit beast definitely won't. In fact, it wasn't just the crowd who felt that it was unbelievable. Even Chu Yang himself felt the same way. Chu Yang had tried to overestimate a certain tiger's ability. He even wanted to predict the outcome of this competition. But he never expected that a certain tiger's acting would be so outstanding. Obviously, today's results had caused many people to be deceived and tempted by a certain tiger's acting skills. They were slowly falling into the abyss of depravity. At this moment, Chu Yang had just received a huge sum of money from Third Master Jin, who was about to cry. He was about to leave smugly. Congratulations, Brother Zhen, on your victory. Are we still going to continue tomorrow? Rugua is still planning to continue. Why don't I accompany you? Wu Xiaoshan couldn't wait to come out. Previously, Jin Wugong had snatched the first prize, and his heart was filled with unhappiness. Now that Zhen Yukai had won, Wu Xiaoshan couldn't help but be overjoyed. Suddenly, a purple pie that was shrouded in purple light smashed towards Zhen Youcai's head. This sentence immediately attracted the attention of the crowd. Of course, everyone was paying attention to official Zhen Youcai's reaction. They were very afraid that official Zhen Yukai would say something like, not interested, not interested, not interested, not interested, and so on. Ha ha ha. Chu Yang looked up to the sky and laughed wildly. He was arrogant and domineering. I'm in the prime of my life now. How can I not gamble? Gamble. Not only gamble. It's a big and special gamble. It's just that. Everyone's eyes instantly dimmed. They were afraid that they would hear something like, it's just that, but, and so on. Why did he say, but, in the beginning? Could it be that he was going to push the drum? Could it be that Brother Zhen has some inconvenience? Wu Xiaoshan asked anxiously. He couldn't help but be anxious. This was a big matter that involved a lot of money. Actually, there's no problem. I'm just thinking that my big cat tiger is so brave. Today it had already killed that golden single-horned dragon python. Is there really any spirit beast that dares to challenge it? My big cat tiger is the most suitable for me. It's also brave and invincible. I will only use it to fight. If everyone is afraid of my big cat tiger and no one dares to challenge it, wouldn't it be very boring? Chu Yang said with a troubled look. What the hell? He actually said, it's just that for this matter? While everyone was shocked, they also felt boundless joy. What a good person. Firstly, we were afraid that you wouldn't gamble. Secondly, we were afraid that you would change your spirit beast to create variables. You're really a good person. You actually arranged everything for us in advance. If you're not a good person, what else can you be? Instantly, everyone's emotions were aroused. Wu Xiaoshan even spoke up for Chu Yang. Brother Zhen, please rest assured. Our Purple Cloud City lacks spirit beasts, but we don't lack people who dare to gamble. As for spirit beasts, you can rest assured. Brother Zhen, don't worry and use your big cat tiger to continue your undefeated legend. Yes, yes. Many people said. Yes, yes. Even more people said. If you win, you have to win happily. Even if you lose, you have to lose gracefully. Chu Yang laughed heartily. Since everyone is so interested, I'll be frank too. Tomorrow I'll bet 3,000 purple cloud coins including today's winnings plus interest. I'll take them all out to play. Anyone can bet with me. This amount of money doesn't count to me. But I'm worried that you won't be able to raise enough money. Take advantage of this time to prepare. If I win, I'll win big. If I lose, I'll lose everything. Damn it, it's really not satisfying. Everyone once again let out a burst of cheers. However, after the cheers, 10% of the people frowned and sighed. 3,000 purple cloud coins. This amount of money didn't count to big official Zhen, but it was definitely not something that anyone could take out. At least in this beast fighting coliseum, only 3 big clans could afford this amount of money. Jin clan, Wu clan, and Li clan. These 3 influential clans in Purple Cloud City. However, even if these 3 clans wanted to take out this amount of money, it wouldn't be easy for them to do so. Especially the Jin family. They had only lost 2,000 purple cloud coins today. Even after deducting their losses from the other bets, they were still in a deficit of 1,800 purple cloud coins. If they had to fork out another 3,000 purple cloud coins, it would be fine if they won. But if they lost, it would be a huge blow to their family's strength, and it might even cause their family's strength to drop. But, looking at the docile cat tiger beside Zhen Yukai, and then thinking of his cowardly performance in the competition as well as his poise, the eyes of these three clans who had taken out enough money to bet lit up. They stared closely at the cat tiger. Bet. Or not bet. Was it worth it to take out 1/10 of their clan's assets to bet on this bet? Also, how confident were they? The more they thought about it, the more excited they became. Chapter 1766. Even Jin Wugong, who had already lost a round, and Third Master Jin, who had just lost a big bet, had their eyes shining with excitement. What a great temptation. Winning this trash would mean 3,000 purple cloud coins. 300 billion purple cloud coins. But what if they lost? It was not like no one had thought of this before. But looking at the big cat tiger, they had already rejected this idea. Facing such a beast, how could they lose? If the Jin clan lost, it would be because of bad luck. This kind of thing once was already a miracle. It was already the limit. How could there be a second time? Chu Yang laughed complacently as he returned to the private room. The two maids stood there respectfully. At this moment, the smell in the room had already disappeared. It was very refreshing. Chu Yang chuckled and casually grabbed 100 purple cloud coins and placed them on the table. He smiled and said, "My feet are smelly. It must have been hard for you guys to bear with it without any complaints. Here's 50 purple cloud coins each." The two girls were stunned. They were not dissatisfied because the reward was too little, but because it was too much. One purple cloud coin was equivalent to 10,000 water cloud coins. 50 purple cloud coins each, that was a total of 500,000 purple cloud coins each. They worked here and their monthly salary was only 30 purple spirit coins. Adding on the occasional reward, they could only get 10 purple spirit coins a month at most. Of course, this kind of income was already considered a good income in Purple Cloud City. But this income added up was not even one purple cloud coin. This Zhen Yukai, a big official, just casually gave them 50 purple cloud coins. This sum of money was equivalent to the sum of the two women's hard-earned income. This is too much. Out of Chu Yang's expectation, although the two girls were wild with joy, in the end they hesitated and expressed their refusal. No matter how much money Zhen Yukai had, this reward was really too much for the two girls. There were already so many that it was enough to make them panic. They even thought with some panic, this Zhen Yukai, could it be that he has taken a liking to our beauty? Although we are children of a poor family, we can't be, humph. Chu Yang could see the thoughts of the two pretty girls. He could not help but laugh. Don't worry, I have a beautiful wife at home. And I am also very henpecked. Even if I want to do something to you, I won't dare to do it. Don't worry, just keep it. He laughed and turned around to leave, leaving behind a few words. Now that you have money, improve your family's living expenses. Girls, you should also think for yourself, haha. The two little girls blushed. They looked at each other and finally put away the money with blushing faces. Although he still felt ashamed to accept it, his tough family, his tired parents, his seriously ill grandfather, and his little brother who was waiting for money to go to school, all of them needed money so much. Although money was not omnipotent, it was absolutely impossible to do without money. This Zhen Yukai was really strange. If other people were henpecked, they would be embarrassed to say it, but he said it so naturally. And the strangest thing was, how did he know that our family was in trouble? I have seen many nouveau riches, but I have never seen one like this. Now, looking at this person's appearance and posture, why is he so pleasing to the eye? What's so bad about his feet? Isn't it still manly? Such a person should have made a fortune. God has finally opened his eyes. Chu Yang leisurely walked out. Two little girls. Chu Yang smiled in his heart. These two little girls obviously hadn't worked here for long. They still retained some of the simplicity of a girl as well as that pure cuteness. Moreover, although the two girls were wearing standard white work clothes, the corners of their underwear were exposed in some places. Some were worn but still very clean. Moreover, the two girls' eyebrows were knitted together, their legs were straight, their faces were rosy, and there was hair on their cheeks. All these showed that they were still virgins. Chu Yang, who had lived two lives, could still see these differences. Working in such a place and still maintaining their purity, and their families were not very rich. Such girls had their own persistence and dignity, and were worthy of a certain amount of help. Although Chu Yang wasn't the kind of person who would squander money carelessly, he still didn't mind helping people who had self-respect and self-respect. When he walked out, Chu Yang could clearly feel that many people's eyes were fixed on him, and their gazes were particularly hot. Big cat tiger. Brother Tiger completely disdained this. His throat was still rumbling and he still had not recovered from the pleasure just now. He turned a corner, and with the help of Big Brother Tiger's powerful spiritual sense, he concealed all of his pursuers. Then great official Zhen returned to his original appearance, the elegant duke of a turbid family. He held a fist-sized kitten in his arms and walked out leisurely. The wretched and arrogant Zhen Yukai, and the mediocre and cowardly big cat Tiger. The handsome Grandpa Jia and the adorable kitten. Such a sharp contrast. No one would have thought that this young Grand Duke holding a cute kitten, with starry eyes and sword-like eyebrows, was actually that arrogant and vulgar nouveau riche Zhen Yukai? Brother Tiger, how was it today? Jianghu asked. Cool. Really cool. Brother Tiger's voice sounded in Chu Yang's heart. I actually like to pretend to be a pig to eat a tiger. This kind of pleasure makes me intoxicated. I really hope to fight a few more rounds and enjoy it a few more times. Chu Yang was speechless. If it were other spirit beasts that were at the same level as Brother Tiger or even weaker than Brother Tiger, encountering such a situation, they would only feel insulted. With my strength, I actually have to fight with these little fellows, and even have to pretend that I can't do it? Aren't you insulting me? Chu Yang did not expect that Brother Tiger did not have the so-called awareness of the strong at all. This made Chu Yang feel a little strange. Don't you feel that, by doing this, you are lowering your status? Chu Yang asked in surprise. In fact, Chu Yang regretted asking this question. Brother Tiger felt good and didn't mind, but he had to expose that layer of window paper. Wasn't that just looking for trouble for himself? What if Brother Tiger suddenly felt that something was wrong and stopped teasing? Where would he go to cry? The whole plan would collapse. Unexpectedly, what do you know? Tiger rolled his eyes and proudly said, my benefactor, what he liked to do the most was to pretend to be weak with his strong self, and then play with his weak enemies. He made his enemies feel depressed and aggrieved and then die in ignorance. Until the last moment of their lives they still thought that they would win, but they were just careless and didn't pay attention. It was like eating ice cubes on a hot day, so comfortable, or after a long time, people would know the truth. I am the Xian beast that my benefactor personally saved, so I naturally have to carry out my benefactor's wise way of doing things. Let me use my strength to bully the weak. Show off as much as you want. I don't care. I really don't care. What dignity. What humiliation. How can it compare to the silent pleasure in my heart? How can everything in the secular world stain my pure and flawless wisdom? Let's have a few more duels like this. Brother Tiger was spouting nonsense. Chu Yang almost fainted. What the hell, what kind of weirdo is your benefactor? How can a Xian beast get used to this kind of thing? What a sin. Actually, you don't know, I have fought countless battles and I am very used to using this kind of method. Brother Tiger said proudly, I have already experienced tens of thousands of battles. Every time my opponents died in aggrieved and indignant, in disbelief. Great. Just one word, great. Brother Tiger roared and then laughed loudly. Chu Yang raised his hand to cover his forehead, completely speechless. Brother Tiger was still chattering in Chu Yang's mind, listing his countless achievements in the past. Once, I met a flood dragon. That flood dragon's strength was not bad, almost 30% of my strength at that time. I first begged for mercy and that thing was proud and arrogant. I went up and punched it. That thing was knocked down on the spot and its face was full of disbelief. Later I kicked it away. That time I was very happy. Another time I met, and Chu Yang walked quickly, turning a deaf ear to Brother Tiger. That was really too evil. To be able to train a Xian beast into such a wretched state, one could only imagine what kind of person that benefactor was. So damn evil. Chu Yang sighed from the bottom of his heart. That's right. That's right. Brother Tiger suddenly became excited. Benefactor's name has the word evil in it. It seems to be, don't be evil. Chu Yang staggered and almost fell to the ground. Don't be evil? What kind of name was that? Besides, since it already said don't be evil, why did it have to be so evil? It was simply, the whole universe was speechless. Not far away the men's hall was just a turn ahead. Divine Dr. Chu quickened his pace. But at this moment, another accident happened. Suddenly the sound of horse hooves came from behind. The sound was as loud as rolling thunder. As soon as he turned back, he saw a group of people galloping on the street like a whirlwind, like a furious dragon emerging from the darkness. At this moment the sky was just starting to brighten. Chu Yang clearly saw the appearance of the people coming. It was Li Mingyue, the Li family's Gong Li. He was galloping over with his guards and followers. The Li clan was just ahead and he must be going home. This was the only way to get to the Li clan. It seemed that this Gong Li was tired from gambling and wanted to go home to rest. Chu Yang subconsciously wanted to hide at one side. In these few days he had seen the Li family's people galloping on this road several times. During the day this street was bustling, but the Li family's people would definitely not gallop on their horses just because there was no one on the road. Their arrogant and despotic attitude could be seen. Of course, Chu Yang was not afraid of trouble, but he didn't want to cause trouble now. Even if he couldn't stand it, he didn't want to cause more trouble. But before he could dodge, a horse whip had already flown over with the sound of wind. A voice scolded, "Bastard! Don't you use your eyes when you walk? Are you blind? How dare you block my way?" Chapter 1767. As Chu Yang continued to kill mercilessly, there were only 2 guards left beside Li Mingyue. The 3 of them looked the same. Their faces were all pale and lifeless. Suddenly, "Kill him! Kill him!" Someone suddenly rushed out from the houses on both sides, shouting crazily with a face full of hatred. This person's footsteps were weak. He was obviously just an ordinary person. Chu Yang couldn't help but stare blankly. What was going on? In such a bloody place, it wouldn't be too surprising if a high-level cultivator were to rush over. But the one who rushed out was just an ordinary person. He was a young man in his 20s. There were also a few scars on his face. These scars made his face look indescribably ferocious and terrifying. "I beg you. Kill that Li Mingyue. Kill him. I beg you." This person shouted himself hoarse. Suddenly he knelt down in front of Chu Yang and kowtowed repeatedly. In just a moment his forehead was bleeding. At this moment Chu Yang clearly heard the low sighs of many people on both sides. Li Mingyue saw this person rush out. His eyes became even more terrified, but also overflowed with hatred. But he also knew what he should do now. While Chu Yang was in a daze, he suddenly signaled with his eyes. The remaining 3 people of the Li clan flew up together to escape. No matter what, nothing was more important than their own lives. Only by staying alive could they have the right to talk about the future. As long as they could leave here alive, they could go back to the clan and gather masters to take revenge. Even if this person was at the peak of the human level, they could still chop him into meat paste. As for this guy who suddenly rushed out, Li Mingyue had already decided at this moment. When he went back, he would immediately capture this guy and torture him 3 times a day for 10 years. Make him wish he was dead but unable to die. Chu Yang laughed mischievously. "Can you leave? The gate to the netherworld is already open. Escape is meaningless." Suddenly he shouted, "Come back." 3 ropes appeared out of thin air and rushed out like angry dragons. In a trance they had tied up 1 person each and dragged them down from the air, slamming them on the ground. "Ghost blood vine." Wah! Li Mingyue was the first to cry out. He spat out a mouthful of blood. For Li Mingyue, who had been pampered since childhood, this fall was definitely not light. Below there was a great battle, but on the houses on both sides of the road. However, there were 2 people who couldn't help but sigh. "Trouble, this is really troublesome." Chu Yang had long discovered that these 2 people were different from the rest, but he had pretended not to see them. The young man who was constantly kowtowing in the distance stood up and frantically ran over. He knelt in front of Chu Yang again and kowtowed repeatedly. His forehead was dripping with blood. He did not care. "Stop kowtowing. Who are you? What do you want?" Chu Yang's murderous aura still hadn't dissipated. My lord, my name is Wang Sanyu. I have been wronged." Wang Sanyu cried out, "I beg you, my lord, please get rid of this evil." At this moment, there were already people watching from both sides of the road. If they were in the Chongtian continent, most people would choose to flee as far as possible when they saw such a situation. They were afraid of getting into trouble, but in this Heaven Imperial Court, they actually dared to watch. Chu Yang couldn't help but express his surprise at the guts of these ordinary people. Wang Sanyu cried and scolded on one side as he poured out his grievances. Beside him there were also some people who were whispering. Only for a moment. Chu Yang had already figured out the whole story. He had just vented his anger, but before he could completely calm down, another wave of murderous aura instantly rushed straight to the top of his head. Wang Sanyu originally had a very ordinary, very plain, but very happy family. His father and mother were just ordinary people who raised 3 children. Because his parents were illiterate, they gave the children the simplest names: Denyo, Ernyo, Sanyo. Although it was difficult for this family to make a living, with the combined efforts of the parents, they were finally able to raise these 3 children one by one. Denyo and Ernyo had already married wives and were living their own lives. Of the 3, Sanyo was the youngest. He was also the most good-looking of the 3 brothers. Moreover, he had good strength. 4 ordinary people, having good strength meant that their future livelihood would be settled. San Yo and the neighbor's girl, Xiang Xiang, were childhood sweethearts and they were already engaged. However, this was also the reason for the disaster. No one would have thought that after Xiang Xiang grew up, she would become an exceptionally outstanding beauty. Although she was not devastatingly beautiful, she had a kind of elegance of a pretty girl from a humble family. The two families were set to get married at the end of the year. San Yo was so excited that he could not sleep when he thought that he was going to start a family and his future wife was the person he had liked since childhood. It was also on that day that the wedding date was approaching. Xiang Xiang and her mother went out to buy things to prepare the dowry. How could such an important matter in life be taken lightly? Even if the family did not have enough assets, they still had to raise some money. Therefore, although Xiang Xiang did not show her face in public since childhood, she finally went out with her parents on that day. However, on the day that she went out, she unexpectedly met Li Mingyue. Li Mingyue saw her and immediately sent people to inquire about her whereabouts. Then he often visited her and expressed his desire to take Xiang Xiang as his 10th concubine. But firstly, they were already engaged. Secondly, how could he bear to let his daughter marry an evil young master? Therefore, Xiang Xiang's parents did not agree. They even tactfully declined and said that the two families were going to get married in a few days. Who were the in-laws, etc. If it was someone else, perhaps they would have just let it go. However, after Li Mingyue heard about it, he immediately sent people to cut Wang Sanyu's face 15 times. You like this little guy? I will definitely turn him into a devil. Let's see if you still like him. However, Xiang Xiang was a woman. She would not leave or abandon him. She was determined not to marry anyone else. When Li Mingyue saw that the wedding date was approaching, he finally became ferocious. He led the evil slaves to rush into Xiang Xiang's house and forcefully took her away. The girl's parents went forward to stop him and were seriously injured by the evil slaves. The two families were neighbors. When they heard that something happened to their in-laws, Wang Sanyu's family hurried over to help. Li Mingyue pulled Xiang Xiang away. However, Xiang Xiang bit him crazily. In a rage, Li Mingyue killed Wang Sanyu's family and Xiang Xiang's family. Only Wang Sanyu survived. However, it was not that Wang Sanyu was lucky, but that Li Mingyue did it on purpose. Li Mingyue thought that his failure to do what he wanted was all because of this little guy. Therefore, he wanted him to live for a long time so that he could slowly torture him. Go against me? I will kill your parents in front of you. I will kill your brother and sister-in-law. I will kill your father-in-law and mother-in-law. I will steal your wife. What can you do? What can you do to me? What can you do to me? You are just an ordinary person. What can you do to me? I want you to be trapped in pain and regret every day. I want you to be unable to resist the torture. In one night, Wang Sanyu was about to enter the paradise of happiness. However, he suddenly fell into the endless abyss of hell. Moreover, he continued to fall. It seemed that this suffering would never come to an end. Every time Li Mingyue passed by this street, he would let his horse run wildly with infinite arrogance. It was from then on that he became extremely high profile. I want you to see that I am so arrogant. I want you to see me every day. However, there was no way. This was really unbearable mental torture. Wang Sanyu, who suffered this unexpected disaster, had no one to turn to. Although the law in Xisha City was strict, but the so-called strict was only relative. For a big family like the Li family. For a big family like Li Mingyue, who had dominated Xisha City for nearly 1,000 years, even the local government could not seek justice for Wang Sanyu. Every time he complained, there would be no result. Not only would there be no results, but they would also be beaten up by Li Mingyue's men. Wang Sanyu was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. Especially when he heard that Xiang Xiang was taken into the Li residence. She committed suicide in less than 7 days. His whole person collapsed even more. The reason why he did not die was that he held on to his last breath. He hoped that one day he could see Li Mingyue's end. Although he knew that the hope was slim, he still had a little hope. Wang Sanyu was like a walking corpse, struggling at death's door. The only thought in his mind was, no matter what, he wanted to see Li Mingyue die in front of him. However, as long as Li Mingyue died, Wang Sanyu would no longer have the motivation to live. Hearing such an unbelievable and cruel incident from Wang Sanyu's mouth, and the discussion of the onlookers had already confirmed the truth of this matter, Chu Yang suddenly felt that his chest was about to explode from anger. There was actually such a thing in the world. Chu Yang's original plan was to keep Li Mingyue for other purposes. However, at this moment, it seemed that no matter what, he had to kill this person first. If he did not kill him, the anger of the people would not be appeased. If he did not kill him, the justice of the world would not be upheld. At this moment, Li Mingyue was lying on the ground and constantly howling. The pain that penetrated into his bones almost made him lose his mind. Apart from howling, he could only curse. However, the next moment he shuddered, because he could clearly feel a murderous aura that was close to condensing into a substance was coming straight towards him. This extremely oppressive aura actually made him not dare to cry or make any sound. The other party obviously wanted to kill him. "Wang Sanyu, get up," Chu Yang said lightly. Then, his black robe fluttered and he walked forward. "Open your eyes wide and look. Heaven is watching what people do. It's not that I don't want to take revenge, but the time has not come. When the time comes, I will take revenge immediately. Now is the time of Li Mingyue's retribution. Now you can comfort the souls of your loved ones in heaven. Today I will seek justice for all of you. Thank you, benefactor. Thank you, benefactor." Wang Sanyu kowtowed repeatedly and cried loudly. He vented all the grievances, anger and hatred in his heart. Seeing Chu Yang's murderous aura gradually approaching him, Li Mingyue shivered. At this moment, he would never doubt that the person in front of him had the intention to kill him. "Why is my family not here yet? Come quickly and save me. Divine Dr. Chu, wait." A helpless and angry voice came. The situation did not get better and it's getting worse. The weather in Laiwu is getting hotter and hotter. I accepted a book friend's suggestion and turned on the air conditioner in the living room. Then I opened the door of the study room so that I won't face the cold air directly from the air conditioner. But it's almost useless. I'll ask for leave first. If there's a second update tonight, it'll be a surprise for everyone. If there's no one, I'll really ask for leave. Actually, I really want to ask for leave for a few days. I've drunk 3 boxes of Huaxiang Jingqi oral liquid. I really can't take it anymore. The person I admire the most is my mother. She never turns on the air conditioner fan in this kind of weather. She even covers herself with a blanket at night. I asked my father today and he said, "Your mother has never used the electric fan ever since she got the electric appliances." My father is especially afraid of the heat. Because of whether to turn on the electric fan or not, the two of them would fight a few times every summer. Chapter 1768. Chu Yang didn't stop. Swish, swish, swish. 3 people landed in front of Chu Yang, blocking his way forward. "Divine Dr. Chu, please calm down," the person said helplessly. "You are." Chu Yang squinted his eyes. Chu Yang recognized the person in front of him instantly. He was just pretending to be confused. This person was the one who brought the patients for him to treat these few nights. The others definitely wouldn't know his identity, let alone call out his identity as Divine Dr. Chu. Only this guy would be so considerate as to wait around the men's hall every day. "I've been meeting with Divine Dr. Chu for the past few days at night," the person smiled bitterly. "Brother Chu, please think twice about it. Although Li Mingyue committed all kinds of crimes and deserved to die, but if Brother Chu really kills him, you'll be in big trouble. Brother Chu, you've already killed many people from the Li clan. If it's just these people, even if the Li clan goes all out to suppress you, I'm sure that you'll be fine. After all, those people are just slaves. But if Brother Chu kills Li Mingyue, the direct descendant of the Li clan, then the nature of the two will be very different. If Li Mingyue is killed by Brother Chu, the Li clan will definitely fight you to the death. So," the person said, "Brother Chu, please reconsider. If you bear with it for a while, you can protect your body for 100 years. Seeing that someone came forward to persuade him, Li Mingyue's eyes also revealed a hopeful look. Wang Sanyu, who was behind Chu Yang, couldn't help but reveal a look of despair in his eyes. It's not easy to see his enemy being beheaded. Is it going to be like a bubble again? Among the 3 people who appeared, one person suddenly moved. A cold light suddenly shot towards Wang Sanyu. Obviously, as long as Wang Sanyu was killed, the victim of this case would also be gone. The moral pressure that Chu Yang was under, undoubtedly it would be much less. This was a plan to remove the firewood from under the cauldron. This person's plan could be said to be brilliant, but this brilliance was only limited to the despicable transactions between corrupt authorities. He even neglected Chu Yang's original intention. "How dare you?" Chu Yang roared. His body flashed and he caught that cold light in his hand. What kind of person was Chu Yang? In a flash, he had figured out that person's intention. His heart was unable to restrain his anger. He rushed forward like a whirlwind and grabbed that person's neck. That person's cultivation was not low, he was also a master of the human level. He had wanted to dodge when he saw Chu Yang's sudden movement. But he didn't know why Chu Yang's attack was as fast as lightning. So he didn't have any room to dodge. He only had time to see a figure flash in front of him. He had already been lifted by the neck by the person in front of him. If anyone dares to act rashly again, I'll kill all three of you together. Do you think I dare or not? Chu Yang said coldly. His gaze was as sharp as a knife as it swept past the faces of the three. At this moment, the three of them could clearly feel the sharp needles piercing their faces. The surroundings returned to silence. Many people's eyes were sparkling with something. A trace of anger flashed across the face of the hook-nosed man. This divine Dr. Chu. He's so overbearing and unscrupulous in his actions. He doesn't care about the consequences at all. He really doesn't know what's good for him. Chu Yang put down that person, turned around and walked forward. He didn't even look back as he walked forward step by step. His voice was like the sound of metal clashing. I've never been a good person. And I'm not a savior. But my heart has its own division of good and evil. I have my own conscience. Rewarding the good and punishing the evil, eliminating violence and bringing peace to the people, these are the inherent glory of martial artists like me. Although there are laws in this world. But there are also too many privileged classes. There are too many ordinary people who have grievances but have nowhere to complain. The bright world. The bright world. But there's also endless haze all the time. I'm not a law enforcement officer. But when I face these things, when I face things that law enforcement officers can't handle, I'll naturally take action. If I don't take action, I'll feel uneasy and guilty. I'm not fishing for fame. And I don't want to become the righteous ruler of the world. I only want to make the justice that can't be obtained appear in my hands. Make the justice that can't be obtained appear in my hands. If the heavens are unjust, I'll take it. If the law is unjust, I'll take it. Eliminate all evil. Chu Yang spoke very quickly but walked very slowly. The sound of footsteps rustled in the silence, but it was like the drum of death from the king of hell. The sound shook one's soul. Every word was said sonorously. Li Mingyue, who was on the ground, couldn't stop trembling at this moment. His crotch was already dripping with blood. His fear had already gone to the extreme. He knew that if nothing unexpected happened, he would be dead for sure today. Papa. Chu Yang leisurely strolled past the remaining two guards and gave each of them a kick. The two guards' heads were crushed like broken eggs. Then a foot covered in blood stomped on Li Mingyue's thigh. Brother Chu. There was a trace of fear in the eyes of the hook-nosed man. Brother Chu, please reconsider. If you don't act recklessly, there's still room for negotiation. If you continue to act recklessly, I won't be able to do anything. I'm really doing this for your own good. Chu Yang turned a deaf ear to this kind advice. It was as if he didn't hear it at all. His foot exerted force again. Then, the crisp sound of bones breaking suddenly sounded. Li Mingyue screamed with a series of trembling sounds. His left thigh was completely smashed. Chu Yang kicked again. This time he stepped on his right thigh. Crack. Just like his left leg. The third kick accurately stepped on somewhere between his legs. A man's thigh was the most painful. Li Mingyue's body twitched. Then he let out an earth-shattering scream and fainted beautifully. Unfortunately, Chu Yang didn't let him go just because he fainted. He stepped on him again. This time he stepped on his shoulder. Chu Yang's eyes were as cold as ice. If one looked at him clearly, there seemed to be a faint sense of sorrow. When I first came to Heaven Palace in Purple Cloud City, I was shocked by the strict laws here. I even naively thought that such a strict city ruled by law. Or that there wouldn't be such lawless and disregard for human life. But now it seems that I was wrong. I was naive. This kind of thing could happen in any society, any era, any space and any place. Even in the legendary Heaven Palace, it was no exception. Another scream rang out. Li Mingyue, who had fainted, was awakened by the pain. At this moment his eyes were a little dazed. He begged repeatedly, "Please, don't kill me. Don't kill me." Another blood-curdling scream was heard. Chu Yang had stepped on his other shoulder and crushed it. He turned around and shouted, "Wang Sanyu." Wang Sanyu jumped up. "Benefactor?" Chu Yang threw a saber on the ground with a clang sound. "Didn't you want to take revenge? Didn't you want to seek justice? I'll take revenge for you with my own hands now. A chance to get justice with my own hands. Go. Pick up the knife and kill your enemy." Chu Yang pointed with his finger and said sternly. Wang Sanyu was stunned. Suddenly he was energized. With a face full of disbelief, he turned over and knelt down. He kowtowed twice. Thank you, benefactor. Then he picked up the knife and jumped up. Wang Sanyu's agility at this moment was not like that of an ordinary person. He even had a hint of martial arts. He strode in front of Li Mingyue. The steel knife in his hand was shining. His face was full of joy. He finally got his revenge. Li Mingyue, you also have a day like this. He actually used his foot. He adjusted Li Mingyue's head a little, so that he could see him. Wang Sanyu, spare my life. Li Mingyue trembled. Spare your life? You want me to spare your life? Wang Sanyu laughed wildly. Tears fell along with his laughter. He held the knife with both hands. He chopped down fiercely on Li Mingyue's leg. There was no pattern at all, but it was full of killing intent. Flesh and blood splattered. That day, when my parents begged you to spare them, did you spare them? Did you? Oh, another chop. This time it landed on her shoulder. When my brother and sister-in-law begged you to spare them, did you spare them? Why didn't you spare them? Puff. When my second brother and sister-in-law begged you to spare them, did you spare them? Did you spare them? Wang Sanyu chopped Li Mingyue's body crazily. Flesh and blood splattered. Blood flew far, far away. And when my father-in-law and mother-in-law begged you to spare them, did you spare them? Did you spare them? My Xiang, begged you to spare her. Wang Sanyu's face was full of tears. His voice was choked, but he shouted fiercely, did you spare her? Oh. The knife cut Li Mingyue's throat. Li Mingyue's head was cut off by Wang Sanyu's knife and rolled out. The next moment, Wang Sanyu chased after the head and chopped crazily for more than 10 times. As he chopped, he roared hoarsely, did you spare them? Did you spare them? Did you spare them? Why didn't you spare them? Why? As he cried, as he roared, he continued to chop. Chu Yang stood indifferently, carefully paying attention to all the movements around him. As long as there was the slightest abnormality, Chu Yang would immediately and resolutely strike with all his might. Fortunately, no one jumped out to stop him during the whole process. The morning breeze filled the street with the smell of blood, but it didn't disperse for a long time. The surroundings were silent. No one made a sound. Only Wang Sanyu's furious roar drifted in the air. That voice sounded especially mournful and empty. Somehow, there seemed to be many vengeful spirits who had died unjustly, staring coldly at this place. Chu Yang keenly noticed that many people's eyes were flashing with heartfelt sympathy. They also had a feeling of relief. This scourge has finally been eliminated today. On the other side, Wang Sanyu made the last chop. Chapter 1769. Finally, Wang Sanyu stopped chasing after the beheading man and laughed wildly. Revenge. He had taken his revenge. Ah, I've taken revenge. Father, mother, eldest brother, second sister-in-law, father-in-law, mother-in-law, Xiang. Do you see this? I've taken revenge for all of you. I've taken revenge for all of you. He shouted and laughed loudly. Tears streamed down his scarred face. Bithes. Then he raised his saber. I've taken my revenge. I have no more worries in this life, benefactor. Thank you so much. If there's a next life, Sanyu is willing to do anything to repay you. Now, benefactor, please leave this place as soon as possible. I killed Li Mingyue. Everyone saw it. I killed Li Mingyue. Wang Sanyu shouted. Then he slashed his saber at his own neck. His saber was so powerful that it could definitely chop off his own head. No one doubted this. Many people closed their eyes because of this. They couldn't bear to watch. Clang. At the last moment, Chu Yang used his palm to block Wang Sanyu's fatal saber. Do you want to die? Yes. Why? Wang Sanyu was confused. Benefactor, what's the use of me living? What else can I do? Although the world is big, where can I find shelter? Jiang sneered. Suicide is the act of a coward. As long as you're alive, how can you be useless? Wang Sanyu's face was full of tears. All my family members died because of me. I'm barely alive just to give the Li family a channel to vent their anger. I'm really useless alive. Chu Yang said lightly, Wang Sanyu, the reason why you've met with such a tragic fate is because you're not strong enough. If you were as strong as me, or even if you were like Li Mingyue, he wouldn't dare to bully you like this. If you die, your family's business will be cut off. You want your family's business to be completely cut off? Chu Yang asked. I don't want to. But what else can I do? Wang Sanyu opened his eyes wide. He was indignant and helpless. Follow me. I will let you live. A cold glint flashed across Chu Yang's eyes. In this world, there are too many people whose experiences are as tragic as yours, or even more tragic than yours. Perhaps you can stop those tragedies. I'm going to stop it? How is that possible? Wang Sanyu muttered to himself, what power do I have to stop it? I will let you have that power. Chu Yang said lightly. Since that's the case, I, Wang Sanyu, will live the rest of my life. Wang Sanyu turned around and knelt down. He kowtowed and said with tears in his eyes, I also want to. His benefactor had shown him such great kindness. Wang Sanyu had nothing to repay him with. Even if my benefactor dies immediately after biting the enemy, I will have no regrets. I don't need you to die. I need you to live and live for a long time. Chu Yang said softly, I'll change your name from now on. Stop calling yourself Wang Sanyu. Sanyo, take it as your nickname, your memory. From now on you will be called King Blade. Wang Dao. Wang Sanyu murmured. King Blade, the blade of a king. When a king is angry, he will use his blade. When he uses his blade, blood will flow for thousands of miles. His corpse will flow to the world. Chu Yang said heavily, although it's a bit late, as long as you are willing to work hard, I will still make you a real King Blade. A blade that will wipe out all injustice in the world. Wang Dao is willing to die a horrible death. I will follow my benefactor. Wang Sanyu, no, Wang Dao knelt down on one knee. With his own life, with this very moment. The souls of his relatives who were still floating in the sky made an oath. Wang Dao. From now on I will be the king's blade. Chu Yang was stunned. I didn't expect that this boor could understand such a layer of meaning by himself. Is this God's will? Or is it a coincidence? Is it really predestined? The hook-nosed man had been silently watching all this happen. Until now, he finally sighed softly and shook his head helplessly. He walked to Chu Yang and said, Divine Dr. Chu, you are really going to be in trouble, big trouble? Chu Yang frowned and said lightly, Don't worry, no matter how big the trouble is, it won't implicate you. I don't mean that, I really don't. The hook-nosed man wanted to cry but had no tears. In order to verify, he had already paid hundreds of purple cloud coins. Now, he had already verified the superb ability of this miraculous doctor in front of him. Now, he was relying on people to build connections and had already contacted the city lord. He was only waiting for a suitable opportunity to recommend Chu Yang to him and gain a lot of benefits. It could be said that everything went so smoothly, just like the original plan. Seeing that this gold mountain was about to fall into his pocket, the hook-nosed man was even a little surprised. How could it be so smooth? But before he could be happy for a few days, something went wrong. Something went wrong at the root. Once something went wrong, more than a dozen lives were lost. And it even involved one of the 3 big clans in Wuxia city. Now, not only a few guards died, but also a direct descendant of the Li clan. This was tantamount to an irreconcilable feud. This was no longer something that could be solved by money, face or power. At least, it wasn't something that the hook-nosed man could solve easily. If he really wanted to solve it, he could only... At this moment, the hook-nosed man almost wanted to strangle Chu Yang to death. This bastard, do you know how many things you've delayed for me by coming here so casually? With a heavy sigh, the hook-nosed man turned and left. Although this bastard didn't appreciate it for the sake of his big plan, he still couldn't let anything happen to him. As for the Li clan, Sai, if there's really no other way, I can only use my real strength. Let's meet force with force. I can't just let my earlier investment go down the drain, not to mention. Chu Yang looked at the hook-nosed man gradually walking away, and a trace of ridicule and contempt flashed across his eyes. Can't implicate you? You want to use me as a springboard to earn benefits for yourself. How can you not pay some price? Am I a chess piece that you can casually use? The hook-nosed man who had already walked far away suddenly turned back. As if he had thought of something, he asked, Divine Dr. Chu, what's your origin? This Divine Dr. Chu was definitely not an ordinary person. His medical skills had already reached the level of Great Dr. Jin, and he also had amazing strength that could break through to the earth level at any time. The most important thing. Through these days of contact, the hook-nosed man could conclude that Chu Yang's age was definitely not more than 25 years old. It seemed really hard to explain that he had such medical skills and amazing strength at this age, if he wasn't cultivated by a huge force. Thinking of his unscrupulous way of doing things and his attitude of not fearing the Li clan at all, could it be, if this guy really had a strong force behind him? Perhaps this time things could be a little easier? Thinking of this, the hook-nosed man's heart was a little excited, but also a little worried. Since he dared to provoke the Li clan like this, Could it be that he didn't have any confidence? Don't think of anything else. I only have myself. Chu Yang stared at him quietly. He had already seen through his thoughts. The hook-nosed man was instantly filled with anger. With a snort, he turned and left. If he stayed any longer, he was really afraid that he couldn't hold back his anger. He would fight with Chu Yang first. But he only heard Chu Yang's arrogant laughter behind him. Not willing to stop after slaughtering the whole world, killing people with a flick of a sword, cutting off the injustices of the world, Duke Chu Yang is the most romantic. Ah! The hook-nosed man's heart was inexplicably shocked. He turned his head to look. He saw Chu Yang in a black robe walking leisurely through the pool of blood. He didn't even turn his head back. It was Wang Dao who had just changed his name. He followed behind this black-robed figure step by step. The hook-nosed man sighed softly. That departing black figure actually added a lot of pressure to him. He only felt his heart was heavy. He muttered, "This time I plan to use this person. Could it be that he also used me?" Thinking of this, the more he thought about it, the more he felt that it made sense. He couldn't help but ponder. After a long time. Then he resolutely said to himself, "As long as the goal is achieved, immediately send experts. Get rid of this guy. This person is extremely dangerous. If I don't get rid of him, how can I rest in peace?" Along the way, Chu Yang brought Wang Dao back to the men's hall. He stood in front of the door with a hypocritical face. "Oh, my great hero, you're back? Are you happy?" Chu Yang rolled his eyes, ignored him, and entered the door. But Fishy wouldn't let him go just like that. His mouth was full of sarcasm. "Oh, you're really awesome. You haven't even gained a firm foothold. There are only 2 people and 1 saber. How did you get here? You're in the dark. Your ability to cause trouble is really not small. TSK, how many days has it been? You want to overturn one of the 3 big clans in Xixia City? How can you be so awesome? Those who don't know will think that you're that reclusive saint-level expert who has reappeared in the world." As a heaven-level expert, of course Fishy's divine sense was sharp, and Chu Yang killed people on the street. It would be strange if Fishy didn't know what had happened. He had been observing closely all along. If Chu Yang was in danger, Fishy would have already flown out. Chu Yang turned around and said very seriously, "Brother Cat, there's something you don't know. I've never been a reckless person. I naturally have my own reliance. Even if I'm not a saint-level expert, I have the confidence and ability to face and solve all the problems caused by me." Something to rely on? Why don't you tell Lord Cat about it? Let Lord Cat also hear it. Fishy's nostrils flared. "I'd like to ask, what exactly do you have to rely on after causing such a big trouble? First, you have to face the Li clan. Second, you have to face the City Lord Mansion and the Eastern Royal Heavens legal system. TSK, I really don't understand where your reliance lies." Chu Yang said solemnly, "Do you know, I may not be able to provoke the Li clan personally, but the problem is that I have a strong backer." "Strong backer? Who is it? I've been with you almost all the time. You've just ascended. How can I not know what kind of strong backer you have?" Fishy's eyes widened. "How can you not know about my powerful backup? Not only do you know, but you also know him. In fact, you're very familiar with him. You're too closely involved to see clearly." Chu Yang's complexion was solemn as he spoke word by word in a deadpan manner. Chapter 1770. What the fuck? Know each other? Very familiar? The onlooker cannot see clearly? Why am I getting more and more confused? What do you mean? A certain cat was really confused by King of Hell Chu. "I've already said so, why haven't you listened? My strong backup is you, brother cat." Chu Yang's face was still full of seriousness. But his tone was full of righteousness as he said, "The 2 of us hit it off at first sight. We eat together, spend money together. We go through life and death together. We go through thick and thin together. If I cause trouble, if you don't take the blame for me, who will? Don't you think so?" Me. Fishy guy pointed at ZJ's nose with a dumbfounded look on his face. "Of course it's you. You're my biggest support. Let me ask you, if someone wants to kill me, will you help me?" Chu Yang asked casually. "Of course I'll help you. You're my savior and my brother. If I don't help you when you're in danger, what kind of person would I be?" Fishy answered without hesitation. In the face of right and wrong, a certain cat's stance was still very firm. "If a group of people comes to kill me and they're experts with great power, will you help me?" Chu Yang still asked casually. "Of course I'll help. Even if I have to risk my life, I'll ensure your safety." Fishy answered without hesitation. friendship, confidant, so what if I have to risk my life? If the entire Jianghu wants to kill me, will you help me? Chu Yang's eyes revealed a hint of slyness. Of course. Fishy felt belittled and was a little angry. Are you doubting me? That's right, Brother Cat. You're a heaven-level expert. You can help me shoulder the entire Jianghu. This small matter in front of me, a merely clan, isn't it something you can flatten with a fart? I believe that if you cough a few times, won't everything be fine? Chu Yang patted him on the shoulder. Now is the time to show your strength as a heaven-level expert. I'll slack off and sleep first. Brother Cat, please do as you please. If there's an enemy attack, please. Brother Cat, you don't have to give me face. Just do what you need to do. Then he leisurely walked towards the room. As he walked, he stretched his body and instructed, Hey, I'm exhausted from this night. First, it's my brain and then my physical strength. It's been tormenting enough. Wang Dao. Go rest in the backyard. There's a row of rooms there. Pick any room to rest in. Have a good night's sleep and recover well. Don't let me see your sad face tomorrow. Be careful or I'll fix you. Yes. Wang Dao hurriedly agreed. Under my command you can bleed, sweat and lose your head, but you are not allowed to cry or frown. Chu Yang lazily walked into the room as he spoke and gave his orders. Bang. The door closed. Sneaky was still standing at the door, dumbfounded. Shan. Teacher Cat's little brain really didn't know how to think. What was going on? In the time it took to exchange a few words. How did this all become my business? He didn't care about anything? Did he become a hands-off shopkeeper? Although if he was in trouble, I would definitely help him. But why did the current situation seem a little strange? Hey, it's not about this. Sneaky thought for a long while before he finally came back to his senses. He anxiously ran towards Chu Yang's room. This matter can't be done like this. It seems like we have to consider this at length. Snore? Chu Yang's loud snoring could be heard from inside. The door was locked from the inside. Fuck you. Sneaky instantly collapsed. He was really too embarrassed to break in. You bastard, you fucking created such a mess and you actually want Chu Yang to clean up the mess for you? This Shan really made Sneaky want to cry, but no tears came out. On the other side, Yen Russian, who was in an extremely weak state, lay motionless on the bed. However, there was a strange smile on his face. Interesting, this was really too interesting. Although he was in a weakened state, his divine sense had been slightly reduced due to his injuries. Anything within a radius of several dozen kilometers, or even the entire Purple Cloud City, as long as he wanted to, would not escape his senses. This little guy was definitely not a reckless person. However, in broad daylight, under the watchful eyes of so many people, he went on a killing spree. What he did was to enforce justice on behalf of the heavens, to uphold justice, and to the satisfaction of the people. But there should be other intentions, right? If Chu Yang simply wanted to kill someone, it could be very simple. As long as he hid and left quickly, even if the Li clan guards were unwilling, they could do nothing. After that, with Chu Yang's cultivation, he could have sneaked into the Li clan and killed Li Mingyue without anyone noticing. That way he could have ensured that there would be no future troubles. However, Chu Yang chose to make a move with great fanfare. If he did this, it might be a quick revenge, but it would be accompanied by a lot of trouble. A wise man would not do this. Although Yen Russian had only interacted with Chu Yang for a short while, he was already sure that this young man's mind was not inferior to most of the so-called wise men in the world. Hence, Yen Russian would never believe that this was all for the sake of Lin Yiqian. Yen Russian was almost certain that Chu Yang's backup plan, the so-called reliance, was definitely not just that heaven-level cat. Although that cat was also capable of handling this matter, this was purely to cause trouble and not in a moment of anger. Yen Russian made this judgment. But what was he going to do? Cause trouble for me? In the room, Chu Yang heard Brother Tiger's voice. What are you going to do? Do you need Brother Tiger to help you? This small matter is nothing to Brother Tiger. Chu Yang looked at Brother Tiger from the corner of his eyes. You need help? How are you going to do it? That's easy. I'll swallow the whole family and end this dispute. Brother Tiger laughed. Although I don't like to eat people, that family really can't be considered as people. I'll swallow them and you'll take over their property. We'll have a clear division of labor, isn't that good? Chu Yang was speechless as he looked at this petite, dainty, cute and cruel criminal. He said, let's put this idea aside for now. We'll discuss it later. It's not time for them to disappear yet. If necessary, I'll say it. Brother Tiger rolled his eyes and flipped his body over, revealing his white belly. He said, okay. If you need anything, don't hesitate. You must remember to say it. Big brother whose stomach can hold thousands of soldiers and horses. Yang was silent. Li Mingyue was tortured to death. At this moment, the Li family had completely flipped the sky upside down. Well, it should be said that the entire Wuxia city was turned upside down. The mayor's residence. Bang. The mayor with a square face was furious. Men? Here. Immediately catch that Yang and bring him to justice. He committed such a crime in my Purple Cloud City, and his means of murder are so cruel. How can I let him go? Yes. The guards went out immediately. The mayor frowned and paced back and forth. His face was gloomy. Where did this damn guy come from? I spent a lot of effort to establish this delicate balance between the three clans. Otherwise, wouldn't the Li clan have been destroyed by me long ago? This damn guy actually caused such an uproar the moment he came. And he seems to want to make the situation more complicated. If I don't stop him, the Wuxia city will change. He was in deep thought. A gentle voice said, "Husband, I heard that this Yang is a divine doctor in the men's hall?" The mayor suddenly became very embarrassed. Madam. This is really inappropriate. A graceful woman walked out from the back hall. Her face was like a lotus and her body was like a willow. She came to the mayor and said, "Well, I heard that this divine Dr. Chu specializes in treating my illness." The mayor's wife's voice was obviously filled with deep resentment. Cough, cough, cough. The mayor's forehead was full of sweat and he looked embarrassed. At this moment, "Mayor, there's someone outside who wants to see you," someone reported from outside. "I won't see him." The mayor, who was feeling embarrassed and couldn't even straighten his back, was furious. He refused immediately. "Yes, it's just that." The person outside was a little hesitant. He presented a visiting card. "It's from the Jianghu clan." Jianghu clan? The mayor was startled. He said, "Let him in." "Well, no. Let him go to the study room. I'll go and receive him personally." He left hurriedly. As he walked, he wiped his cold sweat. Facing the madam, the best strategy is to leave. Sigh, this man really can't straighten his back in certain aspects. As he walked, he felt the madam's resentful gaze on his back. The mayor's footsteps became faster and faster. He ran out as if he was running for his life. His forehead was full of cold sweat again. He really couldn't live through this day. The Jin clan. The second master of the Li clan, Li Mingyue, was killed by Dr. Chu of the men's hall. The master of the Li clan frowned and ordered, "Pay close attention to the development of the situation. Let's not take any action for the time being. Recall all the members of the think tank to discuss the situation at any time. The intelligence team pay attention to the follow-up development of the situation. Don't let go of any trace of abnormality or any trace of information. Yes. Use the shortest time to get the most accurate information. In addition, immediately investigate the origin of Dr. Chu of the men's hall. Don't let go of any small clues." Yes. On the other side, the Wu clan also issued a similar order. These two clans were obviously planning to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. On the other hand, the Li clan was obviously going crazy. It has been a long time since anyone dared to provoke the Li family like this. Furthermore, the person who died this time was the second master of the Li clan. He had almost died in front of the gate of the ZJ clan's residence. "Man, tie that bastard doctor up and bring him back to me. I want him to beg for death." The master of the Li clan's roar shook the entire courtyard. Everyone's face turned pale. How many years had it been since the master of the Li clan was so angry? Chapter 1771. Investigate his background thoroughly. The master of the Li clan roared, "I'll make everyone who is related to him suffer a fate worse than death. Other than the clan members, I'll make them suffer a fate worse than death." The guards and warriors of the Li clan swarmed out. "Master, the city lord's residence seems to have intervened in this matter. Should we?" A man with a goatee reminded carefully. "Prepare a generous gift. I'll meet the city lord personally. This matter will be settled by the Li clan privately." The master of the Li clan looked ferocious. Taking revenge through the government is always one step away. It's not satisfying at all. "I'll deal with him personally." Yes. Almost all forces were paying close attention to this small men's hall. The opening of the men's hall had already attracted the attention of many people. But that time, it was because this guy openly claimed that he could cure the disease of the emperor, which inevitably caused a great sensation. Of course, it was a sensation of ridicule. But this time the attention had a different meaning. Or it could be said that it was a sensation in the true sense, a sensation in reality. And in the hearts of some ordinary people or ordinary warriors, the creator of this incident, the legendary divine Dr. Chu, was worthy of sympathy. His actions were more recognized by these people. He had done many things that he wanted to do but didn't have the ability or the courage to do. For so many years, the three big clans had been domineering in Wuxia city. Who dared to say anything? Now this person helped everyone to vent their anger and even eliminated a big scourge. Everyone's hearts were naturally on Chu Yang's side, but they were powerless to help him. They could only watch the subsequent development of the situation with pity. Chu Yang rested for a while and then came to Yen Rushan's room. Yen Rushan's complexion was much better now. Seeing Chu Yang come in, although he didn't get up from the bed, he still nodded and smiled as a greeting. How do you feel? How many more days do you need to recover? Chu Yang asked. This question should be answered by Chu Yang, who was a doctor. But now he was the one asking the questions. It's not a big problem now. Yen Rushan smiled. I estimate that in less than 10 days I'll be more or less recovered. For such an injury, as long as it can be treated, I'll recover very quickly. Yen Rushan's reply was also very strange. He was like a doctor. If one removed the word "I" in his reply, it was definitely a very standard diagnosis and prediction answer. One question and one answer, the two of them flipped. That's good. Chu Yang smiled. Aren't you the least bit worried about what's happening outside? Yen Rushan looked at Chu Yang with an amused expression. Aren't you worried? You're not worried, so why should I be worried? Chu Yang smiled. Chu Yang's reply seemed to be incoherent, but in fact, it had a profound meaning. If Chu Yang was unlucky, how could Yen Rushan, who stayed behind to treat his illness, be spared? The reason why Yen Rushan wasn't worried was naturally because he had confidence in Chu Yang. Even an outsider had confidence in him. So, how could he not have confidence in himself? Yen Rushan laughed heartily. That Wang Dao you brought back is quite interesting. Chu Yang suddenly raised his head. Oh. Yen Rushan's words were somewhat out of Chu Yang's expectations. That was because Chu Yang hadn't discovered that Wang Dao had any special martial arts talent. The reason why he was willing to bring Wang Dao back was probably because he felt that Wang Dao's experience was really pitiful, especially now that the Li clan was full of anger. Although Chu Yang was their #1 enemy, Wang Dao, as the instigator of the incident, was probably already on the must-kill list. For a moment, Chu Yang was moved by compassion and took this person in. However, he really didn't feel that this guy was interesting. Perhaps you didn't notice. Yen Rushan smiled warmly. This Wang Dao is a good candidate to practice the saber. Although he's just starting. It's a little late for his body to be more or less fixed. But, after I recover, I'll help you train him. There's still time. I believe that there's still a lot of room for improvement. Chu Yang raised his head and looked surprised. A good candidate to practice the saber? Thinking carefully, Chu Yang didn't find anything praiseworthy about Wang Dao's every move and physical condition. Of course, he didn't examine it carefully. Chu Yang had lived 2 lives and his cultivation was exquisite. However, his 2 lives added together didn't exceed 50 years. So, he still lacked some experience and knowledge. Experience and knowledge had always been accumulated over time. There was no quick way to achieve it. Another very important factor was that in Chu Yang's mind, only people like Dong Wuxiang were truly born to practice the saber. As for this Wang Dao, he really didn't look like one. This preconceived idea had more or less blinded Chu Yang's mind. It was a bit like a wise man's 1,000 considerations, but there was always a mistake. You're still young and your experience and knowledge are relatively limited. A momentary mistake isn't a big mistake. Besides, it's really hard for ordinary people to recognize a saber that's really suitable for Wang Dao. Or rather, it's not an ordinary saber. Yen Rushan said, previously when he knelt in front of you, he picked up the saber and violently attacked Li Mingyue. During the whole process he changed his position 27 times. However, his movements didn't change at all. You've experienced this personally. Why don't you recall a little? Chu Yang carefully recalled. It seemed to be true. But what did this mean? This Wang Dao has never practiced the saber before, but he has the legendary reverse palace bone. He's a saber genius. Yen Rushan said slowly, the so-called reverse palace bone is equivalent to the arm extension. With a little practice the bones can turn around at will. Unlike ordinary people who can only move forward or backward slightly. However, he can move left or right at any time. The clearest proof of this point is the last saber that he used to attack himself. That saber strike, however, displayed his unique qualities to the fullest. Chu Yang's mind suddenly flashed through the scene at that time. He couldn't help but blurt out, "That's right." At that time, his arm was facing the sky and didn't move, but the saber was already slashing backwards. If a martial artist could use this saber, it might be possible. However, Wang Dao is an ordinary person through and through. I completely overlooked this point. After all, it's really difficult to use a saber against a martial artist. How many ordinary people can there be? Yen Russian said, "This characteristic is the so-called reverse palace bone. As for the peerless saber, it's the tendon in the arm. An ordinary person only has one tendon, but he has two. Therefore he must be born with divine strength. I believe that since he was young, his strength has been much greater than ordinary people." Yen Russian said softly, "When I recover, I'll be in charge of training an expert for you. This kind of material shouldn't be wasted. If he succeeds, there will be another powerful saber user in the world. Such a saber user. Frightening even gods and ghosts. Terrifying even demons and demons." Chu Yang said, "Thank you." Yen Russian laughed. "I'll say this in advance. I'm helping you to build a foundation for him, but I'm not taking him in as a disciple. You must understand this point." Chu Yang smiled. "Maybe in the future, you will regret not taking him in as a disciple. Who knows?" Yen Russian laughed and said, "How do you intend to deal with this matter?" He immediately changed the topic. Obviously, he could help, but it was a taboo to take in a disciple. "I just feel that the Li clan's reaction is a little too slow." Chu Yang listened to the commotion outside and smiled indifferently. From afar, orderly footsteps could be heard gradually. However, these footsteps could only belong to the city's guards and not the Li family's people. If it was the Li clan, their footsteps wouldn't be so orderly. Only a regular army that had undergone formal training could have such an imposing manner. It's not that they are slow, but they are investigating your background. Yen Russian smiled meaningfully. After the investigation is done and they confirm that there are no loose ends, they will strike a fatal blow. Besides, they also want to see how the city lord will react. After all, this is the East Imperial law, so they have no choice but to slow down. A fatal blow? Chu Yang laughed mischievously. He rubbed his nose. There are still many good people in this world. Yen Russian sighed. I've heard the commotion nearby. I've been listening. The Li clan and the officials have been mobilizing. Many people are sympathizing with you and many are thanking you. Chu Yang laughed and didn't say anything. You've only killed a few people and done one thing, but you've already won the support of the people here. Yen Russian smiled. Not bad, not bad. At the end of the day, people still have a conscience. Haha. Chu Yang didn't know what to feel as he laughed. Brother Yen, I don't agree with what you said. Yen Russian raised his eyebrows. Of course, everyone has a conscience, Chu Yang said slowly, enunciating every word clearly. I have no doubts about this. However, I would like to ask Brother Yen a question. These people who sympathize with me, thank me and even pity me, if I were to do 100 things for them, would they step forward bravely for me? Yen Russian's gaze froze. They will admit that I'm a good person in their hearts, or they will even praise me and curse the 3 major families behind my back when only their own family members or reliable friends are present. But after that they will still cling to me. If I die in the end, I will be completely forgotten by them before long. In the face of the tyrannical power of the 3 great clans, will they swallow their anger or flatter them? I'm even more convinced that even if I do 10,000 things for them, if I'm killed or tortured to death by the Li clan today, no one will dare to stand up for me. At most, they will sigh in their hearts and feel pity. In the dead of night, they will say, if I have the strength, I will definitely avenge him. Then, those who have a bit more conscience will burn a stick of incense for me. Being able to do that is already the limit. Chu Yang asked sarcastically, but what's the use of that? Yen Russian didn't say anything. He only sighed deeply. In this world, everyone has a conscience. The only difference is the amount. But a person's cowardice is the best at manipulating people. Among all living things, a successful person will be manipulated by cowardice. Chu Yang said plainly, so, when I do things, it's never for the sake of being chivalrous or for the sake of benefiting the common people. It's for myself, for my own peace of mind, for my righteousness and for my conscience. That's all. Chapter 1772. But if you say that I would do something for such a person even though I know it's impossible, and even die because of it, I will laugh loudly because that's absolutely impossible and more importantly because they don't deserve it. Don't you think that it's foolish to die like this? Chu Yang's words were powerful and resonating. Edited by P. Aren't you being a little extreme by saying this? Yin Russian sighed. Am I really being extreme? I keep reminding myself that everything I do is not for anyone else but for myself. If not, I won't get the corresponding reward. I'll feel wronged and unworthy. But if I do it for myself, everything is different. Chu Yang smiled. That's why I don't look at the world or the people. I only look at my own heart. At this point, Yin Russian fell silent. If I'm at peace, the world will be at peace. If I'm angry, I'll use my sword to cut off all injustice. Chu Yang stood up and said, "They're here. I'll go out and take a look." Yin Russian said, "Hold on. What's the matter?" Chu Yang turned around. Yin Russian was silent for a long time before he took out a green jade pendant. He said, "If you discover that there's a power in this city that you can't control, or if you can't control the people from the Donghuang government, you can show me this jade pendant." He said softly, "I'm also a government official. This jade pendant is still of some use." Chu Yang looked at him for a while and suddenly smiled. Brother Yin is so righteous. Since that's the case, I won't stand on ceremony. I'll accept it. He reached out and took the jade pendant from Yin Russian without looking at it. He casually tucked it into his bosom and leisurely walked out. Yin Russian's expression changed and a rare smile appeared at the corners of his mouth. It seemed that in this men's hall, he was the one who hated to smile the most. But now he was smiling a lot. The number of smiles he had today was probably more than the number of smiles he had in the past year. Previously, they had addressed each other as Brother Yin and Little Brother. But this time, Chu Yang seemed to have changed the way he addressed him. He changed it to Brother Yin and Little Brother. If others were to hear this, they might not be able to tell the difference. But to Chu Yang and Yin Russian, there was an essential difference. But when Yin Russian heard her words, he felt a tinge of happiness in his heart. He had given this jade pendant because of Chu Yang's magnanimity. This was equivalent to acknowledging Chu Yang. And the reason why Chu Yang changed the way he addressed him was because of this recognition. Inadvertently, the seeds of friendship had already sprouted in their hearts. Yin Russian smiled as he watched Chu Yang leave. He thought to himself, I'm not doing this for the sake of chivalry or for the sake of benefiting the common people. I'm only doing this for my own peace of mind. Where justice is, I have a clear conscience. That's all. I don't look at the world, I don't look at the common people. Only look at my own heart. If my heart is at peace, then the world will be at peace. If my heart is angry, then I will use my sword and saber to cut down the injustice in the world. For the sake of not feeling wronged. What an interesting young man. Yin Russian smiled. He lay back down on the bed. Suddenly he remembered something and called out, "Stop." Chu Yang already had one foot out of the door. Hearing this he stopped. But he didn't turn back. Brother Yin, do you have anything else to say? Outside, the sound of galloping horses was getting closer. I admire your attitude, but I don't agree with what you said. Yin Russian said slowly, people will only explode when they are in a desperate situation. That's why there are so many talents buried in this world. Chu Yang listened quietly. Take Wang Dao for example. If his family hadn't been wiped out, if he had only been beaten and humiliated, even if one of his legs was broken, as long as his family was fine, would he have rushed out today and begged you to kill Li Mingyue? Yin Russian asked. No. Chu Yang thought for a while and gave his answer. Yes, people have the same mindset. Yin Russian said solemnly, that's why I want to tell you that you can't deny the beauty of the world just because of some cowardly people. They won't stand up for you, but they will bear with it for their parents and children. Sometimes, being angry and unsheathing a sword is just the bravery of an ignorant man. But enduring humiliation for the sake of one's family is a hero. That's why sometimes being cowardly is also a hero. Lowering one's head is also a man. It depends on what it is for. Don't say anything unless you're in a desperate situation. Yin Russian's gaze was fixed on Chu Yang's back. He said in a low voice, Brother, you have to remember this. Chu Yang's body trembled. After a long silence, he suddenly turned around and bowed deeply. He said sincerely, Brother Yin, I've learned something. Brother Yan's words today have unraveled the biggest knot in my heart. It's like parting the clouds and fog, and I'm reconsidering the world. Thank you, Brother Yin. Chu Yang walked out with his head held high. He suddenly felt relaxed. Before this, Chu Yang's state of mind was indeed a little extreme. But Yin Russian's words immediately pulled him back from his train of thought, which had already deviated from the right track. Not everyone was able to reach the end of the road. Those who haven't reached a desperate situation and those who have reached a desperate situation have different attitudes. After reaching a certain level, anything could happen, any change could happen. But just like those who were forced to walk on the path to the top because of despair, would you rather not have the magnificent path of becoming a powerful person in the future and preserve the beauty of your ordinary life? This was a question that would never have an answer. No one knew the importance of this conversation to Chu Yang's life. Chu Yang's state of mind had always been a little extreme after the calamity of Beyond the Heavens sect in his previous life. But from this moment on, there was a real turning point and change. His life path was greatly influenced by Yen Rushan's words. It was unimaginable. Sometimes being cowardly is also a hero's act. Lowering one's head is also a man's act. Let's see why. Chu Yang muttered and walked out of the door. Yen Rushan looked at Chu Yang's back view with admiration. The sound of hoofbeats was like thunder. The next moment they stopped in front of the men's hall. The moment Chu Yang opened the door, the palace guards dismounted from their horses. They were in the same color military uniform with helmets on their heads. They looked mighty. The leader was a burly officer with a curly beard. His hand was on the hilt of his sword as he walked over. In Chu Yang's eyes, it was as if a strong black bear was charging over with big strides. Behind him, the 40 to 50 soldiers immediately scattered. In an instant, they had already determined all the possible escape routes and laid out an inescapable net. It was messy but orderly. There was no chaos at all. Chu Yang's eyes narrowed. This was the elite level of the palace guards. This was really unexpected. Are you the manager of this hall, Chu Yang? The curly-bearded officer's sharp eyes swept across and asked loudly. Yes, I am. Chu Yang smiled warmly. General, are you here in my men's hall? Do you have any illness? In the face of such a large army, Chu Yang's words could be said to be a stroke of genius. It could also be said that he was extremely fearless of death. He had come to the men's hall, which specialized in curing illnesses. What illness could he have? The curly-bearded general was stunned. His face was no longer as solemn as before. He shouted angrily, "You are the one who is sick." Behind him, the soldiers closest to him could not help but laugh. Chu Yang could clearly see that the vigor of the city guards in front of him was really frightening. This was only the palace guards of a remote area, but everyone's cultivation was not weak. Even the weakest in this group of people was at the Shen level. If this level of cultivation was placed in the heavenly continent, it was almost equivalent to the level of a first-grade supreme martial artist. Chu Yang could not help but have some doubts in his heart. First, if the palace guards were so elite, why did they still need to ride horses? The speed of each person should be at least 10 times faster than the speed of a horse, right? They came on horseback. It simply reminded Chu Yang of the formation of the cavalry in the lower three heavens. Second, if the palace guards all had such cultivation, Chu Yang knew that the palace guards of Xixia City had a total of 5,000 people. This comprehensive combat power was almost at a terrifying level. Not to mention that the commanders, team leaders, captains and generals must have even higher cultivation. Such power. Why would the city lord allow such a filthy existence like the three big clans? It could be completely wiped out easily. Could it be that there was another mystery behind this? With this thought, Chu Yang's mind turned quickly. If this was really the case, he was afraid that he would have to make some changes to his original plan. He had to act according to the situation to ensure that everything was safe. I am under the orders of the city lord to arrest the murderer Chu Yang and bring him to justice. Since you are Chu Yang, come with me. While Chu Yang was deep in thought, the curly-bearded general had already shouted loudly. A trace of sympathy flashed in his eyes, but he still did not hesitate to give the order to arrest. Wait. Chu Yang said, "May I ask, General, which law did I break? You actually want to arrest me and bring me to justice?" The curly-bearded general was obviously a very principled person, and he did not know how to be flexible. After hearing this sentence, he simply could not catch his breath for a long time. After a long while, he shouted, "You killed more than one person in public this morning. There are witnesses and material evidence, and now you actually ask what law you broke with an innocent face? What kind of question are you asking?" Chu Yang spread out his hands and said, "There are witnesses and material evidence. May I ask, General, where are the witnesses? Where is the material evidence? Where exactly is it? Take it out and let me see." Chu Yang's purpose of nitpicking was nothing more than to stall for time. Because Chu Yang was 10,000% sure that he would not be taken away. The person who asked him to treat his illness must have already gone to find him. He would definitely not let him be arrested. Because even if the city lord could not treat him, he would definitely not use a prisoner to treat his illness. The city lord could not afford to lose face like this. Therefore, that hook-nosed man must protect him, unless he was willing to give up many of his previous investments and the considerable future benefits. Where the benefits are, all interests must be compromised. This was only one of the reasons. And even if that person was willing to give up his investments and future benefits, Chu Yang was still not afraid because there was another reason. The second reason was the Li clan. The pain in the shoulder is caused by intermittent nerve spasms. For this kind of situation, the hospital is unable to cure it. Ordinary painkillers were ineffective, so he took some cancer medicine. After eating it, it worked. He only felt that the shoulder was still throbbing, but it did not hurt anymore. But this medicine cannot be taken too much. After taking this medicine, if it still hurts, he cannot take it anymore. There are too many side effects if he stops for a period of time and tries again. The doctor told me to exercise more and relieve it on my own. I can only relieve it on my own. Generally, it is cyclical. If it is really serious, we will talk about it. Then I feel that the money spent on this trip to the hospital was not worth it. After all this time, you can't do anything about it? Who doesn't know about exercise? The problem is that it is hard to persevere. Well, after taking this medicine, I can't even feel the periarthritis of the shoulder. I also took anti-inflammatory medicine and continued with the previous routine treatment. Last night in the group, third young master said that I am crazy. Today's examination showed that I am really crazy. Report complete. I will go and write the second chapter. Chapter 1773. The direct descendant of the Li clan was killed by him. If it was any other clan with the status and power of the Li clan, they would not allow the government to intervene. Update P. They would not take this lying down. It was everyone's leduo to repay kindness and enmity as they pleased. Ordinary people were like this, let alone the tyrannical Li clan. Once the government intervened, the murderer would be punished. How could it be as satisfying as punishing the enemy himself? Moreover, if the enemy was caught by the government, the Li clan would borrow the power of the government to do things. This would cause the Li clan's prestige to fall. At least among the three big clans, the Li clan would lose face. They might even be squeezed out of the three big clans. Therefore, the Li clan would not allow the government to intervene. Chu Yang only needed to delay until any of the clans succeeded. Then this matter would change from the government's law to a Jianghu vendetta. At that time, it would be up to everyone's ability. See the evidence? Who do you think you are? When we are in court, I will let you see as much as you want. Man, take down this glib-tongued brat. The bearded general looked like an idiot, but who would have thought that his temper would be the same? He knew that arguing with Chu Yang would not end well, but he waved his hand and a few chains appeared. This was a case of a scholar meeting a soldier. You have thousands of clever plans, but I have my own rules. Meeting such a stupid guy, there was really no reason to talk. Chu Yang could not help but touch the jade pendant. Should I use it? At this time, a horse galloped from afar like a whirlwind. General Zhou. Stop for now. The city lord has orders. General Zhou was stunned. He turned his head to look. He waved his hand and the chains retreated. A horse galloped over like a madman. When it reached the front, it almost could not stop. The sturdy horse stood up on its hind legs, and a deep bloody mark appeared on its neck. What's the hurry? General Zhou frowned. The city lord has orders. The one who came to deliver the letter was obviously a scholar. He did not have any cultivation. This gallop was so tiring that his eyes rolled back. He was out of breath. After panting for a while, he said, "Immediately withdraw the troops. There is insufficient evidence regarding Chu Yang's murder on the street. The city lord's office will not accept it." General Zhou frowned. Is there such a thing? This is the city lord's order. General Zhou, please have a look. I see. After reading the order, General Zhou waved his hand neatly. Everyone, let's disperse. Let's go back to investigate and collect evidence before coming to a conclusion. Then he mounted the horse. He looked back at Chu Yang and grinned. Little guy, I didn't want to catch you in the first place. Now that I have this order, it's good. Then he nodded. But you have to be careful. He didn't wait for Chu Yang's reply and whipped his horse. Go! 40 to 50 soldiers. Just like when they came, they retreated like a whirlwind. In an instant, they left behind a cloud of dust on the road. He left in a hurry just like he came in a hurry. Chu Yang smiled and cupped his hands. His face was calm as he looked at the empty space in front of the door. All around, the sound of something flying through the air came closer and closer. After the officials left, the people from the Li family arrived. Chu Yang chuckled mischievously. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Ever since Calamity Sword came to this heaven, it hadn't been stained with blood. Today it might as well kill to its heart's content. Anyway, if that hook-nosed man wanted to arrange things here, it would probably take some time. Jianghu. A thunderous roar sounded. Get out here. Swish, swish, swish. More than 10 figures landed in front of the men's hall. The wind whistled. On the nearby rooftops, front, back, left, right, east, west, they were all filled with people. Everyone had a knife in their hand and a sword out of its sheath. At this moment, the cold light of the weapons actually covered the blazing sun in the sky. Roughly estimating, the Li family had mobilized a total of 200 people this time. 200 experts. A dense, murderous aura swept through the entire street in an instant. The weather that was supposed to be midsummer seemed to have inexplicably returned to the depths of winter. The sky was cold and the ground was frozen. The ordinary people within a radius of dozens of miles couldn't help but shiver a few times. The Li family of Wuxia is doing something here. All unrelated people get out. If you're killed by mistake, don't complain. A domineering voice sounded. A bunch of ants, get out of here 30 miles. Otherwise I'll kill everyone I see. The battle hadn't started yet, but the Li family's overbearingness and arrogance were already evident. With a flash of a figure, General Zhou, who had just left, suddenly appeared on top of a roof. He looked at the Li family members coldly and said, "The city lord asked this general to pass on a message to the Li family. This time he gave you face, but don't be ungrateful. It's okay to kill in Jianghu, but you're not allowed to hurt any ordinary people. Remember, it's not allowed to cause damage to any buildings in the city. Those who violate will be killed without mercy. There's no room for mercy." The Li family's leader's face stiffened. He turned his head and looked. "General Zhou, how can you control the fire so accurately in this kind of Jianghu fight? It's hard to avoid accidental injuries. Our Li family will compensate those who were injured after the incident." General Zhou's face didn't change. He said lightly, "Orders can't be changed. If you violate them, you'll have to bear the consequences. It's your business if you can't control the fire, but it's our business to deal with the aftermath. There's one more thing you must remember. It won't be hard for the city lord to control your heads." The Li family's people showed anger in their eyes. But they didn't dare to say anything. They only dared to be domineering toward ordinary people and ordinary warriors. In the face of real power and violence, they also had to stand aside. This is the first time the city lord's office has let you do as you please. It may also be the last time. General Zhou said loudly, "Your Li family, you'd better behave yourselves." Chu Yang said loudly, "General Zhou, since the city lord's office allows us to deal with our grievances using Jianghu methods, then if the Li family suffers losses, will the city lord's office take care of it?" General Zhou's eyes showed a strange look. He said, "Jianghu matters are settled in Jianghu." "I understand. Thank you, General Zhou." Chu Yang's face relaxed. That straightforward General Zhou seemed to have a strange smile on his face. Then with a flash of his body he disappeared. This General Zhou seemed to be rough, but he had already hinted to Chu Yang that it was okay to kill them all. This made Chu Yang feel refreshed. General Zhou's movement this time also made Chu Yang's eyes flash with surprise. This General Zhou's cultivation was very exquisite. Even if he was a little weaker than Chu Yang, it was definitely not by much. "Go. Everyone kill this guy with the surname Chu." The leading expert of the Li family did not dare to offend General Zhou, but this would prevent him from venting his anger on Chu Yang. Take revenge for the two elders. Go. More than a dozen figures rushed over like a whirlwind. Chu Yang smiled. His body suddenly changed from a stationary state to a floating state, and he slowly rose up without moving. He was dressed in black. His head of black hair fluttered in the wind, but his body remained straight and motionless. Only his eyes emitted a sharper and fiercer light. More than a dozen sword light and saber energy swept over from all directions like a storm. A chilling aura descended. At this moment, Chu Yang suddenly had the same feeling as when he was on the Wind Thunder platform in his previous life. The corners of his mouth revealed a hint of a smile. Yes, it really felt the same. But my strength has already transcended. Looking at the snow-like sword light and saber energy around him, a surge of murderous aura suddenly rose from Chu Yang's body. A little bit of cold light. Chu Yang said lightly, 10,000 feet of light. His voice was indifferent and low. But it was as if an emperor who ruled the world had issued an order to kill. An earth-shattering murderous aura. Suddenly, it exploded from Chu Yang's body. Under everyone's gaze, Chu Yang, who was originally unarmed and defenseless, suddenly turned around. A little bit of cold light suddenly appeared in his hand. In this heavenly imperial court, King of Hell Chu, the master of Calamity soared for the first time. Although that little bit of cold light was faint, it was mixed with the most chilling and coldest feeling. It was a kind of cold light that was enough to freeze anyone's bone marrow. The moment they saw this little bit of cold light, the dozen people who were attacking Chu Yang felt a chill in their hearts. Simultaneously, they felt a chill that went straight to their bones. Then, a ball of sword light that was more dazzling than the sun in the sky. It suddenly appeared vigorously. At this moment, all the people who were watching and fighting had the same feeling in their hearts. After that little bit of cold light flashed, it suddenly returned to Chu Yang's body. Then, from Chu Yang's still body, what exploded was thousands of sword energy, extremely dazzling sword energy. In addition to being dazzling, the sword energy that was enough to shake the heavens and earth shot out from Chu Yang's body in all directions. In fact, every single one of them was so clear. They all had the clearest targets. It disappeared in a flash. But that scene of endless brilliance just now seemed to be forever imprinted in everyone's eyes and hearts. After the sword light disappeared, streaks of blood light suddenly appeared. Those streaks of blood light were like a fountain full of power. They shot out a distance of hundreds of feet and rushed into the air. That was a special situation where one's whole body was filled with energy that couldn't be released, but was stabbed in a fatal spot by the enemy. The whole body's cultivation pressure, the whole body's blood, under the high pressure, suddenly found an outlet that could be released. Naturally, it was going to spurt out desperately. This spurt, in addition to blood, was accompanied by one's own vitality and soul. At the same time, one's body was exhausted to the extreme. Around him, the 13 Li clan experts who were originally charging with swords and sabers were all still in a charging posture, but their eyes had all turned gray. Then, Chu Yang stood with his hands behind his back, still maintaining his original straight posture as he climbed straight up from the center of the crowd. But the 13 people who attacked him didn't seem to see it at all. They still maintained their original posture and continued to move forward, flying past his feet just like that. Once they flew, there was no turning back. They directly rushed into the distance, and after the momentum of this charge gradually weakened, one by one, they fell down like broken sacks. The blood fountain staggered in the air, forming a bright red color. After the change, world-defying heavens is indeed much better. The open beta server is open very well. Players who don't spend money have a lot of fun playing it. Tomorrow, a new server will be opened. Brothers and sisters who have time can go in and play tomorrow afternoon. The game is in the game's special area. With my eyesight, I'll change my profession and open a game company in the future. Chapter 1774. Their bodies lost all control and crashed into the walls before falling to the ground. Some of them rolled down from the roof and some of them crashed into the ground, causing their brains to splatter. In the middle of their throats, there was a small bloody hole that was still gushing out blood. None of the 13 people survived. One sword strike at the same vital point. With just one sword strike, the 13 spirit experts of the Li clan lost their lives before they even had the chance to retaliate. Is this the Shmi sword technique? The remaining few hundred experts of the Li clan looked at Chu Yang, who was standing with his hands behind his back, empty-handed. In his eyes, there was only an indescribable shock in his eyes, and he was no longer as arrogant and overbearing as before. At this moment, Chu Yang's hands were still empty. It was as if that soul-stirring cold aura had never appeared, and those deadly sword lights were just like an illusory dream. Everything was as if they didn't know anything. But everyone knew that it was this young man who was as handsome as jade, who was empty-handed and clean from head to toe, who had just taken the lives of 13 of his companions with a shocking sword technique. Those people didn't even have the time to scream before they died. Their lives were already gone. In the shadows far away, General Zhou's mouth was wide open, and his eyes were filled with fear. If I had really captured him and he had used this sword on me, tomorrow my wife would be able to go to the city lord to ask for a pension. How dangerous! General Zhou knew that he would not be able to contend against that awe-inspiring sword strike just now. His forehead was covered in sweat, and his black face had turned snow-white. If there was a mirror for him, he would definitely be able to see that his face was much paler than the day he got married. Men's hall. Yen Russian, who was lying on the bed, was also shocked. Is this the Shmi sword technique? Is this the Shmi sword technique? As the #1 general in the Eastern Royal Heavens, Yen Russian was very knowledgeable in martial arts. Even if he couldn't be ranked in the top 10, he definitely wouldn't be too far behind. But Chu Yang's sword strike was a peerless divine sword that had never appeared in his memory. If Yen Russian still had an impression of this martial art, Nami, this proved that it had never appeared in the Heaven Palace before. At the very least, no one in the Eastern Royal Heaven had ever used it before. Yen Russian was 100% confident that he would be able to pull it off. This was such a miraculous sword strike, swift and fierce. Every ray of sword light shot out from a direction that was absolutely out of everyone's expectations. However, it would not give the spectators a creepy and eerie feeling. In the eyes of the spectators, that sword strike only looked ethereal and unrestrained. Moreover, it was filled with the aura of a king. Grand and imposing. However, how could such a terrifying and cold sword move be so grand and imposing? Yen Russian could not figure out the reason no matter how hard he racked his brains. This should not happen. But now, the contradiction was right in front of ZJ's eyes. Chu Yang stood quietly in the air. His expression was calm and indifferent, but his heart was in turmoil. The Calamity Swordsmanship actually gave birth to a brand new feeling when Zhan Shou attacked just now. It was as if only in this moment could the terrifying power of the Calamity Sword technique be truly unleashed. There was another kind. An insufferably arrogant one. Once the sword was unleashed, it was like a sovereign descending upon the world. Perhaps it was a coincidence, or perhaps it was a blessing from the heavens. Or perhaps it was another legend. In any case, when Chu Yang attacked with his sword this time, he had a condescending attitude, and he also had a condescending attitude in his heart. When he swung his sword again, he could clearly feel the pride that came from the Calamity Sword itself. At that moment, Chu Yang's mind was truly immersed in the Calamity Sword for the first time. He was one with this sword, man and sword as one. He was like a god, looking down at the many ants in front of him who were waiting to be killed. Killing them was a normal thing to do. What harm would there be in slaughtering ants? This sword instantly shocked the whole place, including everyone. Whether they were martial artists with cultivation or ordinary people with no cultivation, they were all shocked by the brilliance of this sword. There was only silence. Greasy Face, who was entrusted by Chu Yang to protect the safety of the men's hall, could only look shocked at this moment. His mouth was wide open, and a trace of sparkling een gradually slid down from the corner of his mouth with incomparable toughness. It dragged out a long translucent thread. That expression was like that of an old woman who had discovered that her loyal husband was having an affair, and that the person was a man. She was so shocked by the truth that she didn't know what to do. Behind his butt, that furry tail was unconsciously swinging wildly, showing that Teacher Cat's heart was extremely unsettled. And Wang Dao, who was behind his butt, even felt the wind brought by that furry tail constantly blowing at ZJ's face. In such a hot summer day, it actually gave birth to a kind of pleasant breeze that caressed one's face out of thin air. It was really like a big cattail leaf fan. Wang Dao looked at Teacher Cat's butt and thought enviously. If only he used a little more strength. Of course, the prerequisite was that he didn't fart. Don't fart, don't destroy this rare pleasant feeling. Chu Yang's body was still in midair, his eyes coldly looking at the enemies in all directions. His eyes were filled with disdain. The surroundings were silent. The killing effect of this sword had undoubtedly thoroughly shocked the whole place. The Li clan's leader, an old man in his 50s, had a look of horror in his eyes. This was an Earth-grade expert, and also the leader of the Li clan's trip. With his early Earth-grade cultivation, it was enough for him to run amok in this Xixia city. And the Li clan's biggest reliance in Xixia city was the two Earth-grade experts that the clan had. One was at the early Earth-grade and the other was at the early Earth-grade. High-end strength was always the foundation of a clan's standing. This convention was applicable in the heavenly layer, and it was also applicable in the heavenly layer. But now this Earth-grade expert, who was once insufferably arrogant, clearly felt that ZJ's palms were sweating. Seeing that Chu Yang was still leisurely and carefree, his heart was filled with confidence. That sword just now, if it was aimed at ZJ, would ZJ be able to block it? Dodge? Would they be able to escape unscathed? You have no confidence. Even if this young man's true strength was below ZJ's, he still had no confidence. Calming himself down, he opened his mouth and shouted, "This guy only has the strength of a mortal grade." That sword just now was indeed powerful. But the consumption would be huge. Even if he dies from exhaustion, he won't be able to make many moves. Everyone will be divided into 10 waves, one wave after another. He's only one person will take turns to kill him. Take note, once you touch, retreat, don't continue fighting. Then, the next wave will attack immediately. It's a temporary gain and loss. It's not a big deal. Everyone on the Li clan's side was shocked, and then a burst of ecstasy. Yes, the opponent's move was indeed very powerful. Even the strongest person on ZJ's side was unable to block it. But no matter how powerful he was still only at the peak of mortal grade. As long as they used the wheel tactic, how long could he last alone? Of the 200 people, 13 had died just now, but there were still 187 people left. 10 waves, each wave would have 18 people. He didn't have 3 arms, how could he block such a dense wave of attacks? A temporary loss of power was not enough to explain the situation. Go! Quickly dividing into groups, under the command of the Earth grade expert in the lead. The first group flew up, towards Chu Yang violently. There was no need to hold back. If the first attack failed, they would immediately retreat. If they attacked again, they would at least have to wait until after the 17 waves of attacks. There would be plenty of time to recover. Second Elder, should we go and capture that damned slave Wang Sanyu who is hiding in the Hall of Men and execute him? Someone from the other group asked carefully. No rush. This second Grandmaster shook his head and said, as long as we subdue this Chu Yang, Wang Sanyu will naturally not be a problem. Let him suffer in this boundless fear for a while longer, and that won't be a good feeling either. But if we can't even deal with Chu Yang, even if we capture Wang Sanyu, what's the point? He's just an ordinary person. Yes. Second Elder is wise. That person from the other group said flatteringly. In the Heaven Imperial Court, because people's lifespans were generally very long, especially those big clans, their lifespans were even longer. Therefore, in terms of seniority, there was a lot of confusion. In the end, they simply used seniority like, which generation, as the standard for addressing people. For example, the person leading the group now was the son of the old ancestor who founded the Li clan. He was the second-generation ancestor of the Li clan, so he was called Second Elder. But these two words were not very respectful, so there was such a weird title like Second Elder. It had to be said that this Second Elder's tactical arrangement was quite useful for the current Chu Yang. At least on the surface, Chu Yang had fallen into a wave of multiple attacks. The first group of 18 people from the Li clan went forward together. Some of them attacked from afar while others attacked from close range. Everyone only made one move or one sword move. They did not care about the result and immediately escaped. Under such a shameless and targeted tactic, Chu Yang seemed to have fallen into an extremely passive situation. Sure enough, his exquisite sword moves could not be used again. In other people's eyes, there was a kind of feeling. This divine Dr. Chu with wonderful swordsmanship seemed to have been restrained. If there was a chance, space and gap to make a move, so what if you have an invincible sword move? In the distance, that hook-nosed man appeared on the roof with a dozen people to watch the battle. It was a blatant and undisguised manner. It was like, in this Wuxia city I have no scruples. As for the 10 men behind him, each one of them is full of energy, high-spirited, and lawless aura. If it was their background, it wouldn't have been so strange. Because they were all from the Jianghu clan. Chapter 1775. The Jianghu clan wasn't considered a big clan in the entire Heaven Imperial Court. But in Wuxia City they could absolutely do whatever they wanted. They didn't need to care about anyone or anything. With the Jianghu clan's strength, even the Jin clan, Wu clan and Li clan, who were the strongest local tyrants in Wuxia City, wouldn't dare to act rashly after knowing their background. This hook-nosed man was an important figure in the painter. The fourth master of the Hua clan. Fourth master, this divine Dr. Chu seems to be at a disadvantage. He might not be able to hold on any longer. Should we make a move? Someone asked. Let's wait for a while more. The hook-nosed man looked at the battle situation with his eagle-like eyes and said, although Chu Yang is at a disadvantage, his life is not in danger for the time being. What I want is to make a move at the last moment before he's at death's door. Once I make a move, I'll save him from death's door. Only by truly saving my life and laying the groundwork for me would I be able to achieve the greatest effect. You must choose the most opportune moment to show your kindness, the hook-nosed man said in a deep voice. The hook-nosed man said in a deep voice, don't do things that are just icing on the cake. The meaning is very limited. Fourth master is indeed wise. In the men's hall, Greasy Man was really anxious now. He couldn't help but want to make a move. In his opinion, although Chu Yang still had some strength left and was able to fully exert it, it was really too sullen to continue fighting like this. No one would be able to stand such a one-sided battle. But just as he was about to make a move, he was stopped by Yen Russian. "Don't go over." Yen Russian had actually gotten up from the bed and stood at the door. He leaned against the door and looked very weak. But his words were powerful, and Greasy Man didn't dare to make a move. "If you go over now, you'll definitely spoil his overall plan and interfere with his comprehension. This kind of comprehension is something that can only be encountered by chance. If you miss it, you won't get another chance." Comprehension? He seems to be in an extremely passive situation. But he's actually comprehending. Greasy Man suddenly realized. Since Chu Yang had the ability to kill 13 people with one sword move at the beginning, he naturally wouldn't have fallen into such a passive situation. Even if we were besieged, it wouldn't be to the point where we can't even injure one person. Yen Russian wasn't paying attention to the battle. He lowered his gaze and said, "He seems to be trying to understand his sword now. Once he does, he will be able to resolve his predicament." Sneaky nodded repeatedly. A certain cat was also an expert in cultivation. Other than Yen Russian, his cultivation was the highest among everyone present. Previously, he was only concerned about Chu Yang's safety. Now he was enlightened by Yen Russian's reminder. As he observed the battle from the perspective of a spectator, he instantly saw through the crux of the battle. Yen Russian was right. At this moment, Chu Yang indeed felt a brand new and wonderful feeling that he had never felt before. The arrogance of the Calamity Sword, the awe-inspiring aura, the arrogance of not putting any enemy in its eyes, was boundless and magnificent. This was what he had experienced in his first battle in the Heavenly Imperial Court. At this moment, Chu Yang could clearly feel that aura. He could even feel that this was a kind of foundation. Only a sword that was truly lawless and had once slaughtered everyone in the world and stood at the pinnacle. Only then would they be able to have such a magnificent foundation. It was precisely under such an arrogant aura. Chu Yang's heavenly divine technique, which he had been circulating with difficulty, was circulating at an unprecedented and astonishing speed. Ever since his dantian was formed. Even the primordial real silk, which hadn't been used much, was undergoing subtle changes at this moment. It was constantly replenished from his dantian and entered his meridians. Then, it traveled throughout his body and finally returned to his dantian. Every operation and every strand of primordial real silk gave Chu Yang a feeling that he was brimming with power. It was real and not fake. It was precisely this reality that gave him absolute confidence. As long as he was in such a state, even if he continued to battle for another 1,000 or 10,000 years, he would absolutely not get tired. Could this be the true secret of the Tribulation Sword? Chu Yang's mentality also gradually increased along with this kind of arrogance. It was as if as long as he accompanied the Tribulation Sword, he would be able to wander in the sky forever. Slowly, the arrogance in his heart also became more and more abundant. There was more and more a feeling that these people in front of him who were fighting with him were really just some ants. Ants that couldn't withstand a single blow. Even if they were extremely daring ants, no matter how many of them there were, they were ultimately still ants. A kind of displeasure welled up in Chu Yang's heart. How could such an ant attack ZJ? And they dared to fight him? Were they worthy? Suddenly, Chu Yang let out a long howl and shouted angrily, "A bunch of ants! How dare you offend the might of a tiger?" This sentence made everyone feel like they had gone crazy. Looking at the situation before them, Chu Yang was definitely at a disadvantage. It seemed like the pressure he was under was getting heavier and heavier, and he was in danger of collapsing at any moment. However, at such a critical juncture, he actually shouted out such a sentence that was full of confidence and anger. This kind of anger did not come from being aggrieved. It was the kind of anger that came from a powerful existence being provoked by a bunch of weaklings. What was going on? But then the situation on the field changed. It was a sudden and shocking change without any warning. Chu Yang was really angry. Under the inexplicable influence of that arrogant mentality, Chu Yang actually got angry. He had been experiencing and experimenting with that feeling all along. He felt all the changes in his meridians, felt the subtle changes in his mentality, and felt the rapid depletion of his energy. Not only was it depleted, but it was also increasing rapidly. Even if it continued for a long time, he did not have to worry about his energy being depleted. He was originally full of joy and boundless joy. According to the original plan, he should have continued to wait in such a place, waiting for the hook-nosed man to make his move. He should have taken the opportunity to create trouble and lead to the situation that he wanted the most. But that arrogant mentality suddenly changed into the anger of wanting to dominate the world. It made him completely lose control when he made his move. Even Chu Yang was not prepared for such a situation. Everything was an accident, an unexpected accident. All of you are courting death. Since all of you are courting death, then go and die. Facing another wave of Li clan experts flying over, Chu Yang stood up and no longer guarded closely. Instead, he went up to meet them at lightning speed. That cold light suddenly flashed again. Then it disappeared again. Everyone felt a chill run down their spines. A bone-chilling feeling rose up in their hearts. That cold light. It once again covered the sky and covered the earth. It was the same move. It was 10 times stronger than the 10,000 feet cold light earlier. It was not just 10 times, it was a lot more. Cold light, 10,000 fathoms. Chu Yang slowly recited this sword technique. He had a new understanding in his heart. So, this is the true meaning of 10,000 rays of light. Before this, it was the essence of the Tribulation Sword technique. The true power of the Tribulation Sword technique was only the tip of the iceberg. Even saying that it was the tip of the iceberg was an exaggeration. Quickly hide. The Li clan's second Grandmaster almost tore his throat as he shouted at this moment. But in his heart he was worried. It's over. This wave of manpower is all over. The cold light instantly turned into a clear and elegant sword energy, overflowing with brilliant colors. With a kind of calm arrogance, but as fast as lightning, it pierced through the throats of the 18 people who rushed up. Mixed with the surging blood light, it flew into the vast sky and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Those 18 people, at the moment when the light flashed, uniformly lost their lives. In the brilliant rain of blood, their faces still had the brutality from before as they slowly fell from the sky. Indeed, no one was spared. So vicious. The Li clan's second Grandmaster's eyes were almost bloodshot. Chu Yang, are you from Shmi? Chu Yang laughed. I'm from Shmi? Is it important that I'm from Shmi? If I am from a powerful faction, are you all going to kneel down and flatter me? If I'm not famous, should I be at your mercy now? The Li clan's second Grandmaster gritted his teeth and said, You don't dare to say it? You don't have the guts to say it? You're nothing. Chu Yang laughed arrogantly. You think you're qualified to ask about my background? You shameless bastard. The Li clan's second Grandmaster was so angry that blood almost rushed to his head. He waved his hands wildly. Go. Go together. Kill him. Kill without mercy, don't leave him alive. He was almost driven crazy by Chu Yang's provocation. The remaining 100 or so people of the Li clan roared at the same time and rushed up. Chu Yang tiptoed and flew into the sky. He said slowly, Lend me your cold light, and I'll scatter the cold light for 10,000 feet. I'll reign supreme over thousands of rivers and mountains, and I'll be the emperor of the world. Aha, I see. With a long laugh, another move of 10,000 feet of cold light was released. It was just that this move was released for the third time, and its power was even stronger than before. It was actually much stronger than the previous move. The previous move was more than 10 times stronger than when he was at the heavenly level. If this move was evaluated, even if the Dharma Supreme came back to life, he would have to submit to it, and even if the extraterrestrial demon came back, he would have to retreat. Arrogance was not really arrogance. It could also be said to be a kind of extreme confidence. Because of confidence, one became arrogant. When one's confidence reached the extreme, it was arrogance. This sword move was made with a kind of perfect mentality that was full of foundation, with a heart that ruled the world. Since the world is ruled by me, the life and death of all the people in this world are naturally decided by me. When I kill, I execute you. I sentence you. Therefore, my heart is majestic and magnanimous. Chu Yang finally fucked up. The first move of the Tribulation Sword technique was actually about mentality. Chu Yang flew over on his sword. His movements were elegant and unrestrained. He shuttled through the crowd at high speed. One could only see a cold light flashing from east to west and from south to north. It kept going back and forth in an endless cycle. That cold light actually relied on a single sword to weave an inescapable net of slaughter in the air. It was so dense that there was not even a single gap between it and the enemy. Chapter 1776. The 13 plus 18 people who died earlier were both unlucky and lucky. They were the first to die, so they were unlucky, but they were also lucky. Because their way of dying was a sword that cut off their souls, there was no pain. At this moment, everyone could only see broken limbs falling from the sky, dripping with blood. Countless wails rose and fell, one after another, incessantly ringing in their ears. Li Clan's second grandmaster's face was pale. He really didn't expect that the great-grandson of the lowest seniority in the clan would use his own death to provoke such a terrifying enemy for the Li clan. An enemy at the peak of the human level was able to make him, a beginner of the earth level, lose the courage to attack. Even if he forced himself to attack, he already had no chance of winning. Could the Li clan really afford to provoke such an enemy? To quell such a great enemy, the Li clan would have to pay the heaviest price. And all of this was based on the fact that Chu Yang was only an ordinary Jianghu cultivator. If he had a background, what kind of background would be able to cultivate such a talented younger brother with such cultivation and strength at such a young age? Thinking of this, Li clan's second grandmaster shuddered. But things had already come to this, there was no turning back. He could only brace himself and hold on. Let's attack together. An old voice suddenly sounded in his ears. He couldn't help but be shocked and called out, "Father? Don't make a sound. Let's attack together. No matter the cost, destroy him as quickly as possible." The voice in his ears continued, "This person is extremely dangerous. We must take him by surprise and destroy him. Otherwise, after today the Li clan will be finished." Yes. From beginning to end, Chu Yang had an air of ease as he harvested human lives to his heart's content. Fresh lives disappeared under his sword one by one, but his heart didn't waver at all. His figure was elegant and quick as he flitted across the sky. Blood rained down. The Li clan's originally imposing and tyrannical experts had now become a flock of sheep targeted by a fierce tiger and slaughtered. At this moment, everyone's eyes were filled with fear. It was a kind of fear that made one's courage shatter. What Li clan? What clan? What honor? What backbone? What integrity? All of that scrammed to the side. The most important thing now was to run for their lives. If they were going to lose their lives, what was the point of thinking about those useless things? There were more than 180 people in total. But Chu Yang's sword had already destroyed more than 130 people in a short period of time. Those who were lucky enough to survive had their minds completely broken down as they screamed unconsciously. He shouted words that he didn't even believe came from his own mouth. He dodged with all his might and used all his means. They even used the bodies of their comrades to conceal themselves. If there was someone who could block him at this moment and prevent the fatal sword light from finding him, then even if it was his own brother, he would not hesitate to push him out. Sword light flashed. People were howling, blood was spraying, and heads were rolling. In the blink of an eye, the 200 experts of the Li family who had come aggressively had already been utterly defeated. Chu Yang's heart was still as cold as ice. Suddenly, two dangerous auras suddenly rose. There was an expert? Instantly, Chu Yang felt two enormous pressures coming towards him. His heart could not help but tremble. To be able to make him feel this kind of pressure, it must be a cultivator with a higher cultivation than him. Moreover, he should be more than just a level higher. Also, there were a total of 2 attackers. Chu Yang could feel his soul trembling. That was a sense of crisis that concerned life and death. Chu Yang's thoughts flashed. Before he even felt the attack, he had already jumped up without hesitation straight up 300 feet into the air. Below, almost brushing against the soles of his feet, 2 cold lights flashed past. The attack that the two had been planning for a long time. With Chu Yang's amazing spiritual perception, he managed to dodge it by a hair's breadth. 2 figures instantly appeared on both sides of him, one on the left and one on the right. One of them was the Li family expert who had led the team just now. The other person looked quite similar to him, except that he was slightly older. Both of them were holding long swords that were as clear as autumn water. Chu Yang's pupils shrank. From these 2 people he felt a mountain-like pressure. This kind of pressure was not unfamiliar to Chu Yang. He had felt it from the extraterrestrial demon and the Dharma Supreme. Facing 2 types of pressure at the same time today, the pressure actually multiplied. Chu Yang knew that although he had just comprehended sword techniques and his strength had improved greatly, he was confident that he would not be defeated if he were to face either of these 2 people alone. In fact, if he were to face the slightly weaker one alone, he was confident that he could win and kill him. But facing these 2 people at the same time, he was in danger of losing his life at any time. The difference between each level of the Heaven Imperial Court was really too great. The difference between the human level and the earth level was like heaven and earth, like heaven and earth. The early stages of the earth level and the middle stages were 2 completely different worlds. Chu Yang's calamity sword technique had already exceeded the scope of ordinary sword techniques. It was not difficult to kill someone above his level. But in this Heaven Imperial Court, it was already a rare miracle to kill someone above his level. Facing an Earth-level expert who was 2 levels above him, it was already very good that Chuyang could stay alive. But now he was facing an Earth-level expert who had joined forces with another early-stage Earth-level expert to deal with Chuyang. Under the joint attack of the two people, Chuyang really started to be surrounded by danger. The 2 elders with the highest cultivation of the Li clan were circling in the air, constantly launching fierce attacks at Chuyang. One from the front and one from the back, closely connected. If Chuyang focused all his strength on one of them, he would definitely incur the frenzied killing of the other. Chuyang relied on his agile footwork to dodge gradually and counterattack occasionally. For a moment he actually could not find a chance to use his sword technique. Earlier he did not use his sword because he wanted to comprehend the sword technique at the last moment and did not have the heart to use his sword. But now the enemy was too strong, he had the will but not the strength. The joint attack of the 2 elders of the Li clan became more and more compact and fierce. Chuyang could clearly feel that his domineering and insufferably arrogant aura was gradually disappearing from his body as the other party's swift and fierce attacks continued to intensify. And it would be even more difficult for him to contend against the 2 powerful enemies in front of him if this new aura of power were to disappear. Moreover, the power that he could exert would certainly weaken further. And it would be even more difficult for him to contend against these 2 powerful enemies. Chuyang's mind was in a mess, and the situation became even more dangerous. It's about time. Just wait a little longer and the outcome will be clear. Once you see blood, attack immediately. You must ensure Chuyang's safety. In the distance, the hook-nosed man originally thought that he and the others would not have a chance to attack and was disappointed. Suddenly, he saw that the situation had taken a turn for the worse and was instantly overjoyed. Greasy Man from the men's hall was anxious and wanted to fly out to help. Don't move. Yen Russian grabbed him. Chuyang's foundation is so solid that it's the first I've seen in my life. But he has never been able to unleash his full potential. It's probably because he doesn't have any pressure in his heart, which is why it's hard for him to break through. This time, let him experience a life and death crisis. Don't worry, with your cultivation, you'll definitely be able to save him at the most critical moment. Greasy Man said angrily, don't you feel the pain in your back when you're standing? You're not the one who's in danger. What if it's too late? Yen Russian looked at him speechlessly. Cat, how did you reach the heaven level? Greasy Man's face instantly flushed red. He tried to defend himself. Of course, I cultivated with all my might. I cultivated with all my might and wandered the martial world with all my might. Yen Russian nodded in understanding. Yes, you cultivated with all your might and wandered the martial world with all your might. That's how you became so innocent and naive. You're really lucky to be able to live until today. Greasy Man's face instantly turned red. He was so embarrassed that even his tail was half red. He inadvertently turned his head and exclaimed, how is this possible? Yen Russian was instantly shocked by him. He instinctively used his consciousness to scan the surroundings. Even with his calm temperament, he couldn't help but widen his eyes. He muttered, how is this possible? Chuyang had been under the opponent's tight attacks and was in an extremely disadvantageous position. He couldn't even unleash his tribulation sword force. He could only passively take the beating. Naturally, he felt more and more aggrieved. The arrogant and domineering aura from before seemed to be gradually retreating due to extreme grievance. Seeing that the opponent and his father were about to form an inescapable net and completely envelop him, Chuyang fought back with all his might. However, it was to no avail. He only felt that his strength was far inferior to his opponent's. The disparity was too great. He wanted to, but he was powerless. At this moment, Chuyang suddenly let out a loud roar and fought back with all his might. Life. Cherish life. Chuyang had found his greatest weakness at the most critical moment. Since his rebirth, he had indeed cherished his life. But sometimes he couldn't be too concerned about it. Sometimes he couldn't be too afraid of death. Those who were too afraid of death didn't have the guts to break through the death gate. Instead, they would fall before the death gate. Chuyang roared. It was as if he had broken free from some kind of restraint in his heart. He suddenly felt a sense of relief from the bottom of his heart. At this moment, the power of Yen Russian's guidance and correction of the wrong direction in his heart merged with this kind of will to break free from the shackles with a desperate strike. If the arrogant aura of the tribulation sword were to gradually dissipate, it could be said that it was being forcibly suppressed by an external force. At this moment, it was already suppressed to the extreme. Since Chuyang wasn't overwhelmed in the end, then the other result was an extreme rebound. A desperate counterattack with the fiercest stance. The primordial real silk in his dantian suddenly penetrated his meridians at extreme speed. The heaven-splitting divine technique started to move uncontrollably and violently like a great river. Chu Yang only felt a sense of relief all over his body, as if he had broken free from something. His long sword suddenly spread out again. Wind and thunder roared as he actually broke out of the heavy encirclement with ease. With two clangs, the long swords in the hands of the Li father and his father were broken by the tribulation sword and fell to the ground. Chu Yang panted and stared at the opponent, his heart still somewhat confused. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.